Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey, everybody, it's a Friday. It was supposed to be the original trio today, but Jay's not feeling well, so we wish him the best, feeling better. Happy birthday to my amazing son, Aaron. He's 10 years old today.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Double digits?
He will officially turn, what was that?
I believe that was Earl saying Aaron.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it sounds like when they tell you don't clap at graduation and you clap and scream anyway.
I got you. He'll actually technically turn 10 exactly 7 hours from now. He was born at 6:01 p.m. on Sunday, May 19th, 2013.
Nice.
And so he's in school. So how about that? A couple of quickies, and we got to tell you about what's going on with YouTube and a bunch of other things. So on Thursday or Wednesday, I go into, Crumble Cookies?
Love Crumble Cookies.
Really good place.
Big fan.
Their cookies are amazing, but I got one criticism of Crumble Cookies. I went in on Wednesday because my son today wanted to bring in a little cookie for all of his classmates.
What a good kid.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, okay, great idea. So I go in on Wednesday, and I'm like, for Friday, I need 25 cookies, but I don't remember how many kids in the class. I need 25 little cookies for Friday. And they're like, oh, we can't do that.
What?
And I was like, what? They're like, well, we need 3 days. I'm like, you need 3 days to make 25 little cookies? That's all you do is make cookies. What happened here, Crumble Cookie? I love you.
Maybe,
You had 100 from me. Now you're down to a 98 because I can't get 25 little cookies.
Maybe they're so packed, they're so good that they have orders. It takes that many.
There's no way they don't have enough extra dough to make 25 little. Yeah.
Come on now.
So what'd you do?
So instead, I was like, maybe we'll get donuts. He's like, how about Hershey bars? So we bought 30 large Hershey bars.
Nice.
And he brought a Hershey bar for everybody, teachers included. So
Good
he's
for
having
Aaron.
that today. And we got a fun weekend planned, a little birthday party, and taking him and a couple of his buddies to Cedar Point on Sunday.
Awesome.
Oh,
I wish you had a
cool.
birthday for us.
How does that work with do they got to bring their money too?
No, I'll take care of it.
See, at Cedar Point?
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's 50 kids. It's only two. It's Aaron and 2 friends.
Okay.
It's 10. You only turn 10 once. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I would assume if, like, other friends of Aaron's have invited him to, like, not Cedar Point, but to other things. And, like, I'm like, can I give you anything? But they always say, no.
Listen.
I feel like you take care of it as the father of the birthday kid.
Here's what you do. You always bring it, hey, listen, this is, I got lost somewhere. This is a 24 cab. If something happens, you figure it out. Here's this 20.
All right, so Mike, give us a YouTube update here.
Yeah,
so I got a few more shout-outs.
Yeah, we've got a couple messages starting at the end of last week and the last few days that when people go back and watch the show, especially the live show, the full 2-hour thing, the audio syncrasy is off. Now we have, first off, we appreciate you guys alerting us because we don't go back and watch our own live show. We do it live. We only go back if we need to find something specific. So thank you for alerting us. And just an update for you. We have alerted our IT people. Our IT people have found that it happens sometimes, it doesn't happen other times, which means it's not an us issue, it's a YouTube issue. So we've pinged YouTube. They are actively looking into it, and hopefully next week we'll have some sort of resolution for you guys. So appreciate your guys' patience. We apologize for the inconvenience, but we are aware, IT's aware, and literally YouTube, the powers that be that power all of this, are also aware of the issue, and we are actively working to sort that out. So once again, sorry from the whole UCSS crew. I know it's a pain in the butt to deal with that, but we are actively working on making that back to normal and seamless for you guys to watch if you can't catch it live. So.
All right. Very good. Good update there. You see Mike's on the panel. That means Anthony and Earl are behind the glass today. I mean, they're on behind the glass other days too, but Anthony leading the way today. And we got to talk about my best bet, right?
Yeah, we got to talk about your bet of the day. As always, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Hey, Ohio, Bet Rivers online sportbook is the place to be for every single game. Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportbook. When you deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. Get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey. Fun game last night to help you win big. Check out betrivers.com or download the Bet Rivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts. Bull, what are you going with today?
All right, there you go. So I've hit my first slump in baseball all year. I think I've dropped 4 of my last 5.
Yeah.
So we got to get back on track today. So bring up my picks. I got 2 games, 2 big favorites today. So I'm laying a 1.5 with Arizona. Zach Allen, the most underrated, or not underrated, but under the radar, good pitcher. Diamondbacks are having a tremendous season. They're probably the biggest surprise in baseball in terms of a positive surprise. They, I think, have the 3rd best record in the National League right now, behind only the Dodgers and the Braves. And I like them. The Pirates got off to a great start, have been collapsing. Also, the Astros tonight. Why not? It's against the A's. Speaking of the A's, remember before the season I said I thought they'd have a chance to break the record for the worst winning percentage in the history of baseball.
Yes.
The modern history of baseball, which was the 62 Mets, which were an expansion team. They were 40-120. The A's are on pace to win less than 40 games.
I saw the
That's
best
crazy.
stat of my life this morning. It was what teams currently would have to go throughout the rest of the season to break the Mariners' regular season win record. And the A's, you know how the Mariners won 116 games?
Yeah.
What teams have to go to then beat that?
Yeah.
The A's would have to go like 96-4 or 96-7 or some absurd number that is. And they
they're
essentially have to go
already
perfect.
like 20 games out. I think 18 games
18's
out
out of first place. They're dead. They're done.
If they were in the American League East, they'd be, I think, 23 games out already. By the way, the 62 Mets, now remember, in 62, not only were there not 3 divisions, there were not even 2. Until it was 69, I believe, was the first year they went to West and East. But in 62, it was just the American League and the National League. So obviously the gap between the top and the bottom teams in those days is going to be bigger than it would be now, because it was in 62, it was probably, I'm trying to think how many teams were in the National League then. I want to say 12, whatever it was. But you know how many games the Mets finished at first? Do you want to guess?
39.
G?
46.
60.5. 60.5 games out of first behind the Giants.
Damn.
In
That's
62.
crazy.
Anyway,
Nails.
so there you go. So those are the games today. I like those 2 games. Hopefully we'll get back on track tonight. Anthony, we're getting to some baseball. Oh, before we get to baseball talk in a minute, guys, I got to say, so just 2 things. Number one, my Bet Rivers podcast this morning, I did talk about, obviously, the NBA playoff. We'll get to that later, the NBA playoff game, because it was really good, especially fourth quarter later. I even talked about the NHL playoff game, which I watched the first overtime. It ended in 4 overtimes with 13 seconds left in the 4th overtime. 6th longest game in the history of the NHL.
Playoff hockey's awesome.
It is.
It is.
And then, anyway, so check it out. But where was I going with this? Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to hit on one more thing real quick before we get to baseball. Because yesterday I talked about, like, Juan Thornhill. You know, I don't like him complaining about, there's negativity in Cleveland. And so between the reaction to that and the reaction to me saying that most teams, that I would take Trevor Lawrence over Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson if I was starting a team from scratch. So the usual suspects, my man Cam, my man Xavier P., both of them are losing their minds on Twitter over this. Because every 18 seconds, Cam sends a tweet out about how Deshaun Watson has the greatest completion percentage of all time, the greatest hits of all time. There's no context. Half the things he puts on there, I think he's making up. I don't know. But he puts no context behind anything.
We love Cam, though.
I love him. He's awesome, but he's insane. He's insane and great at the same time. But anyway, they were so worked up about this. Listen, I believe in Watson. I think he's going to turn it around. I don't think there's a single team in the NFL that if they had their choice, forget contract, I'll ignore contract because obviously Trevor Lawrence is making way less money than Watson. Forget contract, but everything else counts. I don't think there's a team in the NFL, including the Browns, that would take Deshaun Watson over Trevor Lawrence. Now, you feel free to disagree. I'm convinced Trevor Lawrence obviously was better last year. He's significantly younger. He has no off-field baggage. And he doesn't have the injury history that Watson has. Watson, and they both have one playoff win in their careers, and Lawrence has played less. Again, this is coming from a guy who thinks Watson's going to be really good this year. Really good. But I don't think there's a team in football that would take Watson over Lawrence if they had their choice. Money aside. G, do you disagree?
Maybe the Browns.
Yeah, I don't believe that. No, the Browns would never admit that. Of course.
Look, we put them on a pedestal, right? Like, like I said yesterday. We had 3 quarterbacks in there. I thought it was Deshaun Watson. It was Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and Lamar.
And Lamar.
Yeah.
So people could say if you wanted to pick them now. There's a lot of people that could be mad as hell about the Lamar comment. I was leaning more towards Lamar Jackson than the rest of them. Lamar Jackson to me is like, he's won an MVP. I can't knock that, bro. I can understand if you say, well, he'd be injured. Okay, that's great. But some people can say Trevor Lawrence, listen, he played well 1 year, and that was last year. That was it. And that's the only.
But it's only 1 out of 2. It's not like it's 1 out of 8.
And 1 out of 2 with Urban Meyer as your head coach in the first one, which I think we could completely scrap from the record.
Yeah, it's fair that Watson and Jackson have had more good NFL seasons than Trevor Lawrence. That's fair, and that's really the only argument at this point.
I wouldn't,
because Lawrence is younger, less injury prone, less injured, and was better than both of those guys last year.
But we do have a smaller sample size.
That's fair. That's true. And if Trevor Lawrence can't back it up this year, maybe we have this conversation next year, and I have a different opinion, right? That, a year ago, Aaron Rodgers would have still been on the first tier because he had just won an MVP the year before.
Yeah.
And now we're like, well, he didn't have a good year last year, and he's older, so we're knocking him down.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If I would have said that, or if somebody else would have said that, they wouldn't really even have took it like that. You know the reason they'd be saying that.
No, but Cam and Xavier P, they're my guys. I'm friendly with those guys.
But they are. But here's the thing. The reason they say that to you is because they're fine with you until you say something that they don't like. And then it's easy as hell to be like, he's a Bengals. He likes the Cubs.
No.
So that's.
Yes, in general. Cam
right?
and Xavier P don't do that stuff. But, again, I think Deshaun Watson is going to have a hell of a season. I am very confident he's going to bounce back. But I think Watson and Lawrence are both going to be excellent, and one guy's younger and has no baggage and has no injury history.
One thing Cam does say a lot, and then we'll move on to baseball.
Yeah.
That I do
Cam
agree.
get a lot of time.
That I do agree with.
Yeah.
Cam's right on this. We don't need Watson to be a copy and paste replica of 2020 Houston Watson for the Browns to be successful this year.
Well,
like
they only won 4 games, so not his.
But his numbers, we don't need necessarily.
They don't have to be that
we don't
high,
need
no.
4,900 yards and 35 touchdowns for him to win.
But it's got to be
10,
pretty
11
close.
Games. He has to be good, but I don't think we need 4,900 yards and 35 touchdowns for the Browns to win.
I've already done told y'all, stop playing around with me. I put the expectations out there. I need that. I need 4,800, 49. Listen, if I had Baker Mayfield and we was talking about we don't need Baker to be that great, and then we decided we was going to trade 3 first-round picks, no, I want that all of a sudden.
That's
now.
right. I
need that now.
Cam and Mike right now embarrassing themselves.
No, because you got Nick Chubb, you got other
don't
weapons.
Tell me about Nick Chubb.
You have so many weapons on this team that you don't need.
All right,
you don't need 40. You don't.
You know why you do? You know why you do? Have you looked at the other quarterbacks in the AFC?
Yeah, but they have so many options on offense.
NFC right
no,
now?
but they have so many options on offense to score.
So does Kansas City. So does Buffalo. So does Cincinnati. So does Jacksonville.
He could throw.
So do the
Deshaun
Chargers.
Watson could throw for 4,000 yards and 30.
Browns ain't winning nothing.
30 touchdowns, and they can
go
still
out
win
in the first round.
No, their defense is much better.
On paper, we haven't seen it.
Smoke.
I mean, that's yes, we haven't seen it, but at the same time, we don't know for a fact.
Though again, those teams are proven.
Yes.
Proven.
And we've seen Watson do what he did in Houston. Yes, and we have not seen him do that in Cleveland, which is fair.
You just said he didn't have to throw all those touchdowns, and then when you said it now, what if he throws 35? You just said 35 touchdowns.
I'm saying but
if Deshaun Watson,
G. Bush had said, and this is what Cam said, we need the 2020 version of Watson for them to compete.
Yes, in that neck of the woods, absolutely. Not for that. They don't need that to to maybe get
That's
to the
what I'm saying, to
playoffs.
compete. For
If
them
you
to
want
be-
to compete for a Super Bowl,
Yes,
you need that Deshaun
but we're
Watson.
having two different discussions.
Yeah.
I'm saying to compete in the realm that we think they could compete
is
in.
loaded.
I'm with you.
Loaded.
I'm with you.
You have to be great. You can't just if he puts up Baker Mayfield stats.
No, that's not good.
They're not going to the playoffs.
No, but there's a difference in 2020 Baker Mayfield or whatever Baker's best year was in 2020.
Give me them stats.
There's a
Nuggets, what he got to do? Give me the stats.
If he throws for 4,200 yards and 31 touchdowns.
Well, that's not that far off than what we're talking about.
The analogy G's using, I hate to keep throwing this back to G, but G was like, I need 5,000 yards and 40-plus touchdowns.
I need 5 racks. I'm
I don't
sorry.
think that. I think that is pushing the limit. If he does that, the Browns are winning the Super Bowl.
And they gave him another year. He got another game.
By the way,
than he had back then.
That's still silly. Even if he throws for 5,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, they could still lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's how. So could Kansas City. So could Cincinnati. What people don't understand is the AFC between the year Baker got to the playoffs and now is a million times better.
Night and day. Yes.
A million times better.
Because Herbert wasn't even really playing. Herbert was like a rookie that
He was
next
a rookie.
year.
Burrow was a rookie. Mahomes was just starting to become elite, right? Like,
yeah.
It's totally different.
I get that.
I don't know how good Rodgers is going to be still, but the Jets are way better.
Yes.
If Tua stays healthy, the Dolphins are good. I mean,
They made the playoffs last year,
on
too.
and on. What if what's his name? Sean Payton gets Russell Wilson to play like Russell Wilson
And
again.
there's
That's
a lot
maybe
of-
also.
yes.
Jacksonville, way better.
Yes. And I'm not saying that
And that's without this division where we know that at worst Pittsburgh and Baltimore are going to be decent.
I'm not saying he could be a bum and them compete, but I think there's a vast difference from having statistically speaking, one of the greatest seasons ever for a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think he was the second highest QBR in the history that PFF's been tracking, which I know is not the end-all,
not
be-all stats.
I
I
understand.
understand.
Second highest PFF grade, right?
That's what it was. Yeah, which I know is not the end-all, be-all, but it's a historically great season in certain contexts. I don't think he needs to be.
Isn't it funny that the guy had one of the greatest seasons ever and they didn't win? Again, I don't think that's his fault.
I know.
But it is funny
It is.
that
They were 4-12
it's so odd that would have happened.
But my point is, we don't need historically great Deshaun Watson. Other word, now he could be historically great in context of what Browns quarterbacks have done.
Yeah.
I would like to see him have the best season the Browns
can't
quarterback.
win the Super Bowl.
Unless he's very good.
Forget the exact stats. The Browns can't win the Super Bowl unless Deshaun Watson plays at an MVP caliber level.
Fair.
They will not win the Super Bowl without that because in other years they could have. They could if Deshaun Watson played at a little above Baker in 2020 and the Browns were in the NFC, you might be able to get to the Super Bowl that way if the defense is great.
If the Browns
but not
were
in this AFC.
If the Browns were in the NFC right now, they could have Baker level Watson and
that
make
is
the Super
why
Bowl.
that is why I was so hot before because people said, "Oh, see, sometimes when you're in a fan base, you don't realize that you could take advantage of certain things, right?
Yeah.
You could take advantage of the fact that the AFC was not as good as it is, and when you see a guy like Patrick Mahomes go into the locker room and he's gone the whole second half, you're like, dude, this is your shot. Yeah. Are you gonna seize it or are you gonna just be the Browns? They just turned out to be the Browns, and then you thought, well, look. We're going to be back there. Look at this team. No, it don't work that way, man. Now you look at 3 years later, the climate is completely different. Now you're going to have to play the best you've ever seen. You may see the Browns be the best team you've ever seen in your life, and you still might not even make it to the AFC Championship game.
That's very true. That's how tough the AFC is.
It's a gauntlet, top to bottom.
That's it. It's so hard right now. And that's why ultimately, it's old news at this point, but that's why ultimately G and I and some others were talking about you have to get rid of Baker because the way the AFC was trending, you couldn't compete with just the guy.
You had a ceiling with Baker.
Yes.
And that ceiling was maybe first round, one playoff win.
Right.
With Watson, the ceiling is win a Super Bowl. I just don't think you need historically, unbelievably, otherworldly Watson to reach that ceiling with the rest of the roster constructed as
I just, the problem is, what do you think? The Browns have the best roster in the AFC? They don't.
I think they have one of the 3 or 4 best rosters, yeah.
Okay, maybe but ultimately the other teams you're competing against have quarterbacks that have been playing at an elite level for the last few years where Watson hasn't. That's a big difference. And you're doing it based on hope and like this idea that I do think the Browns have a good roster. And I think they could potentially be amongst the 3 or 4 best teams in the AFC. But to definitively say, oh, they're definitely one of the 3 or 4 best rosters. I just don't buy that because the other teams in that group have proven it the last few years. The Browns have not.
And
so
they got the same guys. Like say, for instance,
exactly.
if you look at Josh Allen or you look at Burrow, like they've done that 2 years, 3 years with guys, and it's the same people. It's the same offenses.
Right.
Like we hoping that Deshaun Watson, hey, by week 6 is clicking. Like we haven't seen, and let's be truthful. In my lifetime, we have not seen a prolific offense.
Nope.
Ever. Like, it's like, it's been middling.
And on defense, obviously it looks a lot better now than it did last year, but it's a lot of new faces. Just like you're talking about.
And that
it's going to take some time to come together.
And that is totally and I'm not.
So to put them in that class with those top teams is just
I mean,
not
I think the 3, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo.
Yeah.
That is in
to me right now.
Those 3 are by themselves.
I think you put the Browns in that next category.
Exactly.
And even that to some degree is being generous because they didn't play at that level last year.
But all the teams in that category have question marks.
Right. I think in that next group they're with Jacksonville.
Yes.
The Chargers,
the
Jets, and Miami.
Yep.
But those teams all have equally as glaring question marks.
But those teams were all better than the Browns last year.
Yeah,
the Jets were right in the same
The Jets
pair,
and the Browns were about the same.
Yeah.
Right? So those teams are in that next group, all trying to get to the Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City group. And all of those teams, I think, could potentially get there. And I definitely think the Browns are one of those teams that could potentially get there and maybe have the most upside along with Jacksonville because of their quarterbacks, to me.
Very interesting.
But we got to see it. But I'm not putting them in that group until they prove it on the field.
There you go, G.
No, and this is why it's very important for the Browns. Like so many times we see the Browns get to a point where it's almost like they're out of it before they even start. It's like they can't lose a bunch of games and then be like, all right, well, the middle of the schedule is easy, now they got to win 5 or 6. No, like they
we're
got
in that situation all the time.
Every year they're in that situation, and it's the division is too good for that.
Yeah.
I could understand if our division was the AL Central, right?
Right.
If this was the AL
the
Central,
AFC South, where Jacksonville's playing against a bunch of scrubby teams.
Yeah,
They went 9-8 and won the division.
Yes,
right.
If we were in those divisions, boom, I would say great. Now it just seems like they're up against it. They got to be ready to go week 1.
And you're right. And my point is, Bull, for them to compete this year, and when I say compete, I'm talking about
the playoffs.
They better make the playoffs this year.
No, what is compete? Define compete.
To me, is be in the hunt for an AFC championship. I think putting Super Bowl aspirations on this team is too early, but also just saying,
that's very vague.
But
in the hunt for an AFC championship.
They have to win a playoff game.
If you win an AFC championship game and you're playing against an NFC team, you automatically got a shot.
I mean, Philadelphia may be the favorite. They're really good.
San Francisco's really good.
San Francisco's really good, but you got a shot.
Yeah. Of course, but so your argument is that
they need to win a playoff game this year.
Can the Browns win? Well, you might have to win 2.
I'm just saying they have to win a playoff game this year.
Okay.
Or I look at the season as a failure.
Okay, so for the Browns to win a playoff game, Deshaun Watson doesn't have to. What?
He doesn't have to have the second greatest PFF grade for a quarterback ever.
Of course not.
That's what I've been saying this whole time.
I mean, that's
literally what I've been saying the whole time.
Well,
we could have 80% of that Watson and this Browns team be as good as we think they actually can be. We don't need 100% Watson at his absolute greatest. 80% of that Watson can be.
For them to be a legitimate team to win a Super Bowl and win more than one playoff game, Watson's going to have to play close to that level of play. He's got to play at an MVP level.
I feel like we're saying the same thing in different ways.
And isn't when you look at the individual years for MVPs, aren't usually those MVPs at a historical level? All of them.
I mean,
like
Lamar Jackson was like a weird historical level,
like
right?
because of what he was doing on the ground, right?
Yeah.
You look at historical level. I could look at Tom Brady a couple years ago. These guys are all. If you win an MVP or close to the MVP, you talking 5,000 yards.
Yeah, or at least 4,000s, over 30 touchdowns.
35, 36
completion percentage way high near the top of the league.
So all of those dudes, if you win MVP, you are playing at a historical level. Now, in my situation, I look at it like, hey, guess what? If you get a guy like Deshaun Watson and you say he plays at an all-time level and you can get home field advantage, that helps you tremendously. Because other than that, you're playing on the road. You saw I got to win 3 road games against historical greatest teams of all time.
Right.
Like, that's tough to do.
Right.
So I'll take that during the regular season.
Yeah.
If they're going to put themselves in a position to get a home field game.
I mean, the Chiefs just lost one of the greatest receivers ever, and still won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Still won the Super Bowl.
With just a tight end.
With a bunch of guys, and I was great. Kelsey, obviously, Hall of Famer. Their wide receivers were a bunch of decent players. Decent guys. That's it. All right. We were going to talk baseball to start. We are going to get to baseball with Tim Kurkjian. Let's first send it to Anthony.
Yeah, guys, you're going to talk about Watson having a phenomenal season. I know he's going to because I know Watson eats Built Bars.
That's true.
And you can eat Built Bars, too, if you use code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. We love them here. I have one for breakfast every morning. Watson has them, and the whole offense is eating them right now on vacation. Go check out Built Bar. And without further ado, we want to bring in our guest. Never mind. He just walked away from the camera.
I will get to Tim Kurkjian in a minute. Are you guys excited that Deshaun – I know we're going to talk about this later, but we just had a big conversation. So Deshaun Watson working out with his teammates. How excited are we about it?
I know Jay's excited. There is proof.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is proof Deshaun Watson is working out.
Yeah.
He is doing calisthenics.
I was never worried about that.
They have the snap count down. They know what he sounds like under center. I think a lot of people are excited.
Yeah, the thing with this whole Watson trip, like, I'm not sure if every quarterback's taking their offensive teammates to a tropical destination like he's done the last 2 years. They're all putting in off-season work together. But it is good to see video proof. Not that we had any doubt, but just good to silence anyone
Jay had doubt.
Just to silence anyone who had a single question that Deshaun Watson wasn't putting in work this offseason. There is video proof of him doing it.
Yeah.
He's working with his teammates. They're all coercing together.
There's no proof that he's working harder than he should be or whatever. Like, a couple of videos doesn't mean anything. I'm gonna assume Deshaun Watson is working as hard as he needs to.
Yeah.
Lack of videos don't disprove it. Videos don't prove it. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's working his ass off because if he's as much a dog as I think he is, he's embarrassed by the way he performed last year.
Totally agree.
And he wants to go shut everybody up that's dissing him. There was some idiot on Twitter yesterday, I don't know who it was, who when I said that Deshaun Watson stunk last year, this guy went on Twitter and was like, Why is Bull saying Deshaun stunk and why did nobody call him out on that? He was terrible.
He was not.
And he wants to shut all these people up. And, you know, the only way you're going to do it is with great play.
And hopefully what we can do is once he comes out and plays at that MVP level, we can then move into the sane world of solid teams, just like nobody is looking for Josh Allen on a beach somewhere.
That's right.
No one's hanging out with Joe.
That's right.
No
you got to prove it on the field.
When you prove it, everybody, all of us will shut up, and we can just be like, we'll see what happens this year in 2024.
Okay, we've got Tim Kurkjian of ESPN. The Guardians with a 3-game series with the Mets this weekend. Our old buddy will face our old buddy Carlos Carrasco, and there's the great Tim Kurkjian of ESPN. Tim, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm well, fellas. How you doing?
We're doing very well. By the way, Tim, I worked with your son Jeff at the radio station here in Cleveland for a number of years. So
Jeff is really misses Cleveland. He had a great time there. He went to Las Vegas after that. Now he's in Philadelphia, and he's doing really, really well. But he enjoyed his time in Cleveland, and I don't know if you guys know this, but the first year he was there, the Cavs won the NBA championship. And the Indians went to the World Series. Then he went to Vegas, and the Golden Knights, if that's what they're called, went to the Stanley Cup Finals. Wow. And then he went to Philadelphia, and the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and the Phillies went to the World Series. My son is clearly a good luck charm. I've had people call me from Seattle and say, can your son move here? Because good things happen when he arrives.
Well, just don't let him go to New York. Even though I'm a born and raised New Yorker, I don't like any of the New York teams, and I want them all to lose. So please keep him out of New York. That's it. Philadelphia is fine.
Okay, very good.
Tim, a lot to get to with the Guardians. Obviously, they've had a very disappointing start to this season. A lot of the young players that performed last year have not gotten it done. They added Mike Zunino at catcher. He's been a disaster. Let's start there at catcher. Bo Naylor is killing it in AAA right now. He had a cup of coffee last year, didn't do well, but he got barely any at-bats. Are you surprised? You know, they called up Tanner Bybee. They called up Logan Allen. They've been more aggressive with bringing up their minor leaguers and not waiting, not being scared to start the clock. Are you surprised that they haven't gone with Bo Naylor? Because their catching production, both offensively and defensively, has been awful.
Yeah, the defense is the worrisome part because Mike Zunino's always been a good defensive catcher, but those shoulder issues, I was told in spring training, are really bothersome to him. And if you can't throw these days, especially with more stolen bases, bigger bases, you know, the whole pick rule and all that stuff, I think you're in a little trouble. Now, we also know Zunino, he can get really hot, and he can hit 6 homers in a week. That's how good he can be when he's swinging it. But when he's not, he hits under 200 and doesn't get on base very much either. So, yes, at times, you know, the Guardians are going to have to look at this and say, all right, are we getting enough production? Do we have to make a move? I think Zunino gets a little more time.
Okay.
You know, Tim, you know, I asked, you know, Bull and some of the baseball guys, Jay, you know, when we look at this, you know, the roster and how the Guardians are always able to find a pitcher. They're always able to develop pitching. They, you know, as soon as they leave, you know, we've been talking about Bieber, maybe trading him to get a bat or get something in return from him. One of the things that we're getting is, hey, you take a look at the guys that they are able to develop. They can do it when it comes to pitching, but when it comes to you know, power bats or guys in the corner outfield, why is it that they're so able and adept at developing pitching, but it doesn't seem like they've been able to develop power bats when it seems like it would be more difficult to develop pitchers than hitters?
Yeah, they're really good at bringing pitchers in, and obviously they have to get Tristan McKenzie, they got to get Savali back, they got to get their pitching straightened out. Because right now they are a really weak offensive team. Fellas, you know this. They've hit 24 homers the whole season. The Rays have hit more than 3 times as many homers as the Guardians have hit. The team's hitting 228. They're second to the last in the league in runs scored. And we all know they don't have a particularly powerful lineup. But last year, they figured out ways to score runs. They stole bases. They put the ball in play like no other team. And it's possible some other teams have recognized this is how they score runs. We are going to try to combat that. Well, they need a lot of help offensively if they're going to run down, you know, the Twins in that division. I think they should feel great that they've played this poorly, and they're still only 3.5 games behind the Twins. The pitching is going to get much better. The bullpen is fine. They're just going to have to get some people going. And those guys you talked about last year, you know, Jimenez and Rosario, guys who were really good last year and haven't been nearly as good, they're going to have to pick it up if they're going to make it back to the playoffs this year.
Tim, I'm filling in for Jay Crawford today. Jay woke up with a migraine, but he wanted me to send a hello and he misses you from your guys' days together at ESPN. So that is my message from Jay Crawford. Do you have a Jay story, by the way, before I get into my real question?
Yeah, I will tell you that Jay was a dear friend of mine. We went to the we did a show in like Phoenix or something doing the Giants. And Jay still plays baseball at a pretty high level. So he jumped in against a pitching machine throwing, it was at least 85. It might have been 90. And he said, I can hit this. And I'm thinking, Jay's a good ball player. He's a good athlete. I'm not disputing. I said, I'm not sure he can hit 90. And after about 3 pitches, he hit a bullet. He hit a rocket. And I said, all right, there's Jay Crawford for you. And I played catch with him a few times. He can throw a baseball. So it's always good to find someone who's in the business, who's actually played at least one of the games. It's not necessary to have played in order to be a good writer, analyst, reporter, but it sure helps if you have played before, if you know what 90 miles an hour looks like, and Jay Crawford does.
Jay talks about his playing days all the time, so I'm glad we got some real confirmation that he actually does know how to throw. Tim, my real question is this. You've been covering Major League Baseball forever. You've interacted, and you know these managers better than we can ever imagine. What makes Terry Francona so different and so special and so successful as a manager in today's game?
Yeah, he's just got a great feel for people, and that's the most important thing about being a manager. You have to know what button to push on this guy, because every guy has a different button and he needs it pushed at different times. And Tito has always figured out how to do that with his players. And that is a gift that he has, and a lot of people don't. He used to tell me that he would play cribbage before games all the time. As you guys know, he played with Dustin Pedroia. He played with Jonathan Papelbon, who was so bad at it, they let him in the game. And as Tito said, I got a new finished basement built because all the money I won from Papelbon playing cribbage before the game. But he told me you can learn a lot about a baseball player, what he might do on the field, by watching him and playing cribbage with him before the game. I've never heard a manager say it quite like that. But that's Tito's greatest gift, is his ability to deal with people. And, of course, his ability to deflect attention away from his team when things aren't going poorly. Now, I hope this comes across properly. If it doesn't, I apologize. Years ago, no, I'm not even going to tell this story. I'll get in trouble, so forget it. I just want you to know that Tito is the absolute best at meeting people, recognizing what they can do and they can't do, and it's always self-deprecating on his part to deflect the attention away from his players so they can go out and play.
Tim, when you look at the Guardians, are really interesting, right? They've got a loaded 40-man roster. They've got a ton of these middle infield prospects that don't really have room to play. They did extend Jimenez. Rosario's going to be gone at the end of the year. I assume they're going to trade Shane Bieber this offseason because he's got 1 year left, and they're not going to lock him up at this point, especially with he's not pitching that well, but they couldn't afford him if he was. And yet they have some obvious needs. We've talked, right field certainly, potentially catcher if Bo Naylor ends up not being a long-term answer. What are you expecting from them in terms of trades? I know some of it has to do with how well they're playing, but what does the next year, would you say, look like in terms of what they're going to do in trades?
Well, they're in a tricky spot.
Yeah.
Because they're in a lousy division. The Royals are really bad.
Yeah.
The Tigers aren't very good. The White Sox look terrible these days.
Yeah.
And the Twins are a decent club. So it's very difficult for the Guardians, who made the playoffs last year, to be within shouting distance of first place and in their division, a chance to make the playoffs, and then punt at the end of July. I just don't see that happening. I don't think they should do that. If they have a chance to make the playoffs and you can win in the playoffs with great pitching, if their pitching is really good, I think they have to stay with it and not deal until they are absolutely certain that they're not making the playoffs this year. And I think in a weak division like this, I think they're going to be in the race all year, because I just don't see a team good enough to pull away.
Tim, we talked about, trades and different things. We were in here just, playing around one day. We're doing this show, and I said, look, why don't you just trade for Ohtani, right? Like, just pack up your little prospects.
Well, the Angels are doing pretty well right now.
I know they're, at the time, I'm like, but is there a big enough package, or I would trade anybody for him, right? Even if it was a rental for 6 or 7, 8 months, right? When you look at his talent level, do you believe that, A, there are teams out there that have enough that would trade for him, or B, is there no package that's big enough for him based on what he can give you?
Yeah, I don't think the Indians have a big enough package now to trade for a guy who's only going to be there for a few months. That doesn't mean they don't need him. They could put a package together, but it wouldn't make any sense if it took 6 guys to get him and he plays 3 months and leaves. Yeah. I mean, that's the potential. So you can't do that if you're the Guardians. And my guess is, and I saw Ohtani yesterday in Baltimore, he hit another home run. He's so unbelievably good that I think the Angels are going to do everything they can to hang on to him and try to convince him to stay. Now, the only way or the best way that's going to happen, is for them to stay in the playoff race. And they have an outside chance to make the playoffs. If they can convince him, hey, we made the playoffs, we're going to give you $600 million to stay. You can pitch. You can hit here. You love pitching on this mound. You love hitting in this ballpark. Trust me, fellas, Ohtani's comfort level is really important about, like, he doesn't necessarily like to hit at Dodger Stadium. Look at his numbers at Yankee Stadium. They're not particularly good. He's not going to go to a place where he doesn't feel 100% comfortable. So I think the Angels at least have an outside chance to keep him, and that's why I don't think they're going to trade him before the trade deadline unless they are hopelessly out of it. And then the packages that could come in would be amazing, but they're going to have to come from a team that is also willing to pay him $500 to $600 million because they're not going to give up 6 players to get him for 3 months.
Yeah, by the way, I think he'd look really good at Wrigley Field. Tim, is that the number? Is it $600 million? Is that what it? I mean, you have to. He's a great pitcher and a great hitter, right? I mean, could it be even over $600 million? I don't know. I mean, there's not. I don't know. Was that the guess?
Anything is possible. We've never seen this guy before, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Babe Ruth in 1920.
Yeah.
By the way, if we let Babe Ruth in 1920 pitch, and be the DH 6 days a week, he would be doing what Ohtani did. I really believe that. He wouldn't be throwing 100 with a slider from hell and everything else, but he would be doing – not the point. The point is we've never seen anyone like Ohtani. So if you break it down, and this is way too simplistic, if he were just a hitter, he would get close to $300 million a year. If he were just a hitter, he would get close to $300 million a year. Put them together, that's $600. That's a guess. We're all guessing, but – if you're a team that needs somebody to change the course of your franchise, who better than him?
Yeah.
Tim, you're on the call this Sunday for Sunday Night Baseball, Guardians, Mets. When you guys travel and do these productions, what makes coming to Cleveland and Progressive Field such a unique experience?
All right, well, I'm not on the call. I'll be doing baseball tonight from Bristol on Sunday. No worries. The answer is I love coming to Cleveland, period. Not just because my son used to work there, but because I love that ballpark. I love being around Tito and his team, and there's no substitute for being at the ballpark. So, and I've been to Cleveland so many times. Opening day 1982, the Indians were terrible at the time. And my team that I covered, the Rangers, were awful also. And the Rangers beat them on opening day, and there were 74,000 people in Cleveland on opening day 1982. Man. And then the next day, there were like 3,000 people there. It was one of the great drop-offs I've ever seen. And by the way, opening day 82, George Wright of the Rangers, a rookie center fielder, went 3 for 4 against the Indians on opening day. So I went up to him and I said, George, did you have a good time today? And he goes, yeah, I've never been to a major league game before. So the first game he'd ever been to in his life, he got 3 hits in it. Think about that for a second.
That's crazy.
That is incredible. Tim, I want to ask you about Shane Bieber because he's pitching this weekend, obviously. And he's coming off his worst start. He gave up a ton of hits. His velocity's been down all year. How concerned should Guardians fans be about Shane Bieber right now?
Mildly concerned because his stuff is too good to get hit around, at least on the level that he is now. I thought he was, and I still do think he's a Cy Young contender going into the season. What I've always been so impressed by, at least according to the people I've talked to, is he'll come back from the offseason and suddenly he's got a slider, or suddenly he's got a split, or suddenly he's got a different look to his changeup or whatever. So he invents stuff as he goes, and I'm just not sure that creativity is still there. Now, I fully expect him to have a really good year. And let's face it, fellas, he's got to have a really good year. And then everyone else has to fall in line. As we talked about, you got to get some people healthy in that rotation. Otherwise, the Guardians are in trouble. Bieber has to be great if they're going to make the playoffs, and I think he will be. He just had a little bit of a hiccup his last time out.
Tim, another team in this division, you mentioned the White Sox. They've just, they made all these trades a few years ago. They got all these young players. Some of them have not panned out. They've had a lot of injuries. It seems like they have weird chemistry, bad defense. But they have a lot of chips potentially at the trade deadline. They probably have the most chips. So whether it's Dylan Cease, whether it's Moncada, Tim Anderson, are you expecting them to be big sellers at this deadline?
Again, Jerry Reinsdorf, their owner, is so wildly competitive. He lost a game yesterday, I was told by someone who was there, and he was furious that they lost to the Guardians yesterday because they had built a tiny bit of momentum and then didn't follow it up. I don't see Jerry Reinsdorf punting on this season until he's absolutely convinced that the White Sox have no chance to make the playoffs. Right now, they have no chance to make the playoffs, but we have to see where they are 2 months from now. And then you're right. Lance Lynn might go somewhere. Moncada could help somebody. Tim Anderson could help anybody. I would be surprised if they were to trade Dylan Cease. That guy's stuff is fantastic, even though he hadn't been great this year. But if they're interested in, contending long term, they have to keep Cease. They have to keep their best players and try again next year. But this year is not over. It's really never over in this division with no dominant team.
Speaking of teams who may not have a chance, Tim, the Oakland A's are
the worst team I've ever seen.
There's something else. We'll put it that way. Bull told me before the year they had the worst roster he had ever seen.
I said they were going to break the Mets, the 62 Mets were 40 and 120. They're on pace for about 35, 37 wins now.
Yeah, I guess my question is, Tim, is this the worst Major League Baseball team you've ever come across?
Well, you guys got to remember, as a beat guy for 10 years, I covered the 88 Orioles, who lost their first 21 games to start the season. No team had lost more than 14 in a row to start. They went to 21. So after 18 in a row, Frank Robinson, great Indian manager, he took the writers out to dinner. I just think he needed to change the subject. So during dinner at 0-18, I say to Frank, I said, Frank, has anyone interesting called you during this losing streak? And he said, yeah, the president called me today. So Frank was a big kidder. So I pushed him 3 times on it. And I said, did the president call you? He said, damn it, the president of the United States called me today. I said, Frank, what did he say? He said, Frank, I know what you're going through. And Frank said, Mr. President, you got no idea what I'm going through. That's how bad the Orioles were. Now, they only lost 107 games that year. I think the A's are going to lose more than that, but I'm not going to 40 and 120. That's a little bit too much. But to be serious for a second, this is not healthy when any team is this bad. All right. As you guys know, one of the great beauties of baseball is that bad teams beat good teams all the time. Yep. No bad team ever came in and beat LeBron's Cavalier team when they were really good. Came into Cleveland Arena, whatever it's called, and beat them. That just doesn't happen in basketball, and it doesn't happen nearly as often in football. But in baseball, bad teams go on the road and sweep a good team every once in a while. And you go, how did that happen? Well, the A's can't do that. It's like an upset when they win a baseball game or certainly a series. And that's very unhealthy when the gap, which I've never seen a gap wider between the really good teams and really bad teams, which we see today. And I repeat, that is not healthy for the game.
Yeah.
We go to the historically, bad to the historically good. In the American League East, is led by the Rays. I mean, they jump out to one of the best starts that we've seen in a long time. How good
Red Sox in last place, 4 games over 500.
How
They'd
good
be tied
is
for first in the
That's
Central.
crazy, Bull.
Yeah,
How good, Tim, is this division, the American League East?
Yeah, it's the best division in baseball by far. There's a bad team in every division in baseball except the AL East, and it is filled with plus 500 teams. And if the Red Sox were in the Central, of course, in the American League, they'd be in first place. I think they'd be the best team in the National League Central right now also. And I said at the beginning of the year, not like that matters what I say at the beginning of the year, but I thought 3 teams from the AL East would make the playoffs like last year. And It's possible, unlikely but possible. 4 teams can make the playoffs out of the American League East this year. Again, I saw the Orioles yesterday. They are loaded with talent. The Blue Jays are loaded. The Yankees are 11-5 in May. They finally started to put it together, and the Rays are off to a historically good start. So I think the Red Sox are going to end up finishing last in that division. I think they're going to win 83 or 84 games. And I think that's going to be the best division of baseball all season.
What's crazy, too, Tim, is like the Rays have lost Springs for the year. They've lost Rasmussen for the year. Glasnow hasn't pitched yet. For Toronto, Alek Manoah's been pretty awful so far. I picked him as my Cy Young. That looks really bad at the moment. And yet those teams are winning. It seems like whoever the Rays put into pitch, we talk about the Guardians developing pitching. The Rays are even better. It's like whoever they throw in there pitches well. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really amazing how well they draft, but also how well they develop. And pitchers go there and suddenly get better. Kevin Cash, the manager, has something to do with that. Kyle Snyder, the pitching coach, does. Their analytics department is really, really good. But there is a concern now. Jeffrey Springs with Tommy John, and Tyler Glasnow coming back from Tommy John, and Drew Rasmussen is hurt. And I'm not suggesting there's anything nefarious going on here, but that's a troublesome situation that all these pitchers go there, get better real good and real quickly, but then a bunch of them get hurt. I'm not sure where that connection is.
It's wild. Again, Sunday Night Baseball, ESPN, the Guardians and Mets this Sunday, baseball tonight before that. Tim, we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, fellas, thanks, and I'll see you in Cleveland on July the 4th. I'm doing a Braves-Guardians game on the radio there, so I'll see you there, if not before.
Love it. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks,
we
Tim.
appreciate it.
Have a good one.
The great
guys.
Tim Kurkjian of ESPN. He's awesome. ESPN's baseball coverage is not what it used to be, but they still have Tim Kurkjian, who's as good as he gets.
Yeah, they used
Best
to have
in the biz.
everybody. They used to have Peter
Tim
Gammons.
Kurkjian's the man. Yeah.
They had all them dudes.
All right, what do you got for us, Anthony?
All right, guys, so we're going to go into our next topic here, and we actually asked the internet, and every time we ask the internet, it's brought to you by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio, and all locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, get a full benefit package, paid time off, and the signing bonus. Apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. And our question for the internet and for you guys today is it finally time for the Guardians to call up Bo Naylor? We put a community poll up. 90% voted yes. I think they're going to be sitting here with you guys where it's a yes, right?
Whose phone is on? Who's be that? You, G?
They keep going on.
Come on, now you got to mute your phone.
I thought it was you. It didn't reset. This little chirp, it didn't reset. Look, you see?
During my ad
You
read,
see it?
G, how dare you?
I mean,
crazy.
honestly, at this point, we talked to Tim Kurkjian. He thinks they're going to they want to give Zunino a little more chance to turn it around.
I think he's crazy. I think Tim said a lot of things that were spot on there.
Yeah.
I think he's dead wrong on that. The fact that they haven't called up Bo Naylor yet,
he didn't
baffles
say
me.
whether it was the right move. He said that's what they're going to do right now.
Well, then the Guardians, who do a lot of things right,
Yeah.
are dead wrong on this one. You look at the numbers, and I know baseball is so subjective. As Tim said, you can get hot, you can get cold. Well, Bo Naylor's been pretty good in AAA this year. 9 home runs, 37 hits. That's more than Cam Gallagher and Mike Zunino combined times 2. So you look at that alone, give me Bo Naylor. We talk about the pitching staff with the Guardians, how the young guys, Bybee, Allen, and even Battenfield for a little bit, kind of sparked their rotation. Well, this offense is absolutely abysmal. Why not bring up a guy who at least you can see may be able to provide a spark for the rest of the guys in that lineup? And if nothing else, he can't be worse. He literally cannot be worse than what they've had.
No, it's time. I think, the only thing I can think of is that they're waiting till June in terms of all this contract nonsense. But they haven't really been doing that, as Jason brought up yesterday, and he's right. So, they did sign Zunino, but they didn't pay him that much money.
And sometimes you're wrong, and it's okay. Sometimes you're wrong.
Honestly, they're probably going to give him another week or so. But by June 1st, if Zunino hasn't turned it around, I'd cut him. Not
Just cut him?
Yeah, because I'd rather have Cam Gallagher's a backup catcher.
Yes.
So you leave him as your backup, and I think Zunino's shot. It looks like he's shot.
Have you seen
He
his
had a serious when they signed him. My concern was he had been a good power hitter in the past, and he had been a good defensive player in the past. But he had a really serious injury last year, and he's older.
Yeah.
And he got off to a hot start with the bat. Remember the first 2 weeks he was hot.
He had more doubles in like 3 games than Austin Hedges had in 3 years.
Red hot
here.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But now he looks completely done.
How old is he?
He's not that old.
But catchers
But
get older
catcher's
quicker.
older quicker. And have you seen his May stats? I know you're a big stats guy. Anthony, pull up the catcher stat graphic I made. Zunino's 0 for 27 with 21 strikeouts in May.
Oh, no.
0 for 27 with 21 strikeouts in May.
He was my backup catcher on my fantasy baseball team. I just cut him this morning.
0 for 27 with 21 strikeouts.
When you got 21 strikeouts out of 27 plate appearances, that means you're not even going up there with an approach.
No.
That means you're just swinging at pitches, bro. There's no, unacceptable. He should have already been chilling, and I was going to wait till Memorial Day, but listen, when you play baseball, you're not even up there with, your third base coach say, listen, hey, get in there and hit your pitch.
That's like record breaking.
Yes.
1 for 46.
And guess what? The one came yesterday.
Did it?
Yes. Cam Gallagher had an RBI single yesterday. They were 0 for I guess he was 1 for 3 yesterday, so they were 0 for 43 heading into yesterday with 1
that's
RBI.
combined.
That's combined. That is Zunino and Gallagher combined. Zunino by himself in 15 games in May is 0 for 27 with 21 strikeouts.
That is unacceptable. Like at the end of the day, you owe it to your team to put somebody in there that at least has a shot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You owe it to the other guys because at the end of the day, they looking at those numbers just like you are. They know what the guy is. And if you see a guy killing it down there, and it just so happens to be somebody's brother on the team, you know they really know it. Like, man, we need to put him.
So, guys, Mike Zunino, on April 10th, he had 3 hits. Then 3 days later, 3 games later, he had 2 hits on April 16th.
He has 14 hits all season. So.
Yeah, since April 16th, he has 4 hits.
Oh, hell no.
4, and I think 3 of the 4 are singles.
And I do want to make one thing clear. AAA stats and Major League stats
of course, totally
are different. And you can't look at them apples to apples and say if he's doing this here, it's not going to be there. So when you see the Bo Naylor stats.
But here's the thing. Bo Naylor is having a great season. He is a top prospect, so it's not like he's coming out of nowhere.
He was a first-round pick.
He was on the squad last year.
It's time. It is time. In the end, maybe they're going to wait another week. Who knows? It's time to call him up and make him the everyday catcher. That's why you cut Zunino. Yeah. Move on from him. My guess is they'll keep Zunino and get rid of Cam Gallagher. I don't think it really matters. I'd get rid of. I think Zunino's cooked. He's 32 years old, which is not that old. But for a catcher, there's not a lot of catchers that are really good past 32.
Yeah.
There's some special guys that are, but
it's the rare breed.
Done.
Yeah,
he's done. He can't play in the field. He's terrible in the field. It's kind of crazy at this point. The Guardians have been getting essentially 0 from catchers since Roberto Perez and Yan Gomes.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's been a number of years since those guys now. And those guys gave you some production, and those guys gave you great defense. But Hedges was useless. Maley is useless. At least Hedges gave you a good pitch call. Now, Hedges, by the way, everybody's like, he's great defensively. No, he was great at pitch calling. He couldn't throw anybody out either.
Fact.
And he couldn't hit.
Fact.
He's not he shouldn't be a major leaguer.
Well, you know what's funny, Bo?
Zunino right now.
We had this conversation multiple times last year.
Yeah.
The Guardians' catching combination of Maley and Hedges was historically bad.
Yeah.
And somehow they got worse this year.
Yeah.
And somehow they actually downgraded from.
They went from a 1 to a 0.5.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what they've got.
We went from what we were calling historically bad to catastrophically historically bad.
That just goes to show you, you can't. So they get nothing in terms of any sort of production offensively from center field. They don't get anything behind the plate.
Yeah.
Very little from right field.
Very little for right field. And your left fielder, which is a power position, they're using that if Quan played center field, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Right, yeah. Quan's good, but there's no power, and you're not getting any power out of shortstop either because Rosario doesn't hit for power either. And even Ramirez's power has been down. So who's their leading home run hitter? Naylor?
I think Naylor with 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Or 4 or
24 home runs is batshit crazy.
They played 43 games now.
Yeah, they're averaging a half a home run
per game in today's era of baseball where everyone is hitting home runs.
You can't be that low. You can't consistently score runs when you're hitting 1 home run every 2 games.
I wanted to ask Tim if he thinks the Guardians' small ball style of play is sustainable, not just to win a division in a bad AL Central, but can you win a World Series like that? And bad job out of me.
I don't even think they can sustain it 2 years in a row playing like that, because like some of the hits you hit it right at somebody, right? Or you found a hole somewhere, or it's a bloop single. Like in baseball, sometimes people clean that up.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, guys. I disagree. I don't think there's enough teams to do it, so we don't have enough of sample size. Here's the thing. They're not doing it, though.
Right.
They're not. It's not. We said last year they hit for average and did all these gallop.
They're not. They're second.
not doing
They're
that.
28th in the league in average.
They're failing at that.
Therefore,
And
I
this
don't think it's sustainable.
And by the way, I'm just going to say it. I hate to say it, but as usual, I was right. I had my man Jay Crawford and all the Miles Strawites telling me he's having a great spring training. He's having a great spring training.
He bull-weighted him out.
And then the first couple of weeks of the season, he
was
actually
hot.
started hot.
To his credit.
And what do his numbers look like now? The same as they always do.
Yeah.
No power.
Regress
no
to the
hitting.
mean.
I've got basically 3 spots. Again, last year you had center field, no production.
Catcher.
DH, no production, and catcher, no production. Now it's changed. Josh Bell's been okay since his awful start.
Okay,
He's been
yeah.
okay. But he's not been as good as we hoped. And so they're getting nothing. DH is better than last year, but catcher is worse, if you can believe that. But it was crap both. Center field, you're getting the same lousy nothing. And you get nothing out of right field. Last year, at least Oscar Gonzalez gave you production.
You want to hear a funny little tidbit on the catcher stats, by the way, the historically bad catcher stats?
Yeah.
So they have 2 RBIs in May.
Yeah.
Zunino's 1 came on a bases loaded walk.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cam Gallagher's was a single. So it's not even 2 real hits that led to RBIs. It was a single.
One
and
hit.
And I'm gonna give you
50%.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I think you're starting to see the decline of Jose Ramirez.
I don't think so.
I'm not buying it yet.
I think you're not gonna see a jump off a roof, but I'm thinking I don't think you're starting to see a decrease in power.
I think it's too early. It's too much track record.
Hey, listen, how old is
If
he?
he finishes the season with 16 home runs, then. But I got to see it. I think he could get red hot with home runs.
How old is he?
But 29, I think.
28, 29.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
But is he a good in shape 28, 29? He ain't never been
No, he's never been in great shape.
He's never been in great shape.
I got to see it. I can't write off his power this early,
All right.
but it's been disappointing. I'm with you there.
What's
we have
up,
our
Anthony?
next guest.
Yeah, before we get to our guest, though, I want to remind everybody that it's the 12 o'clock hour, and the 12 o'clock of the lunch hour is brought to you by Colleague Great Companies Championship. See your favorite golf legend play in the Colleague Companies Championship July 12th to July 16th at the famous Firestone Country Club. Fun, family-friendly events all week long featuring a new fan zone experience, free attendance for kids, and a concert every night. There's something for everyone. Learn more at colleaguegolf.com. And our guest today is brought to you by Lorain County Community College. Lorain County Community College, your classes, your future. You can register now for summer and fall classes.
By the way, my man Anthony is going to struggle with colleague. I'm struggling with it. What was it? Colleague
Companies
Company
Championship.
Championship.
Yeah,
You're gonna
it is the
struggle
most
with that one.
tongue twister ad
And
we've ever gotten.
we go from colleague to Matt Coller, I believe I'm pronouncing
Yes,
that right,
yeah,
from
yes.
Vikings Insider, PurpleInsider.com. What's up, Matt?
Hey, what's going on? Also, I'm a community college guy, so shout out to all those people who went to community college
go community
and
college.
saved all that money and took the same courses. I'm just saying.
I failed out of community college, so do I get a clap for that? There you go. Shout out to Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn, where I paid for a year of school and didn't go to class. That was a brilliant move by me. At the age
But at least
of,
you didn't pay that
19
much.
or whatever the hell I was.
Yeah, all right.
Not uncommon amongst community college students, but nowadays you got good community colleges here with
All
Lorain
over.
County Community College and Tri-C. Not like the scrubby one I went to. All right, we appreciate it. Let's talk about a couple of former Vikings now who are on the Browns. And the Browns acquired 2 of them now. But let's start with Dalvin Tomlinson, who came first which was really the most important need for the Browns because they had nothing at defensive tackle. How good was he in Minnesota, and how good do you expect him to be here?
Yeah, I think that a good way to demonstrate that is that at the Combine, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah stood up there and said, basically, please come back to us, Dalvin Tomlinson. We really want you back. Of course, he ended up getting more money than the Vikings could afford. But, I think what's interesting about Dalvin Tomlinson is when the Vikings initially signed him, they did it because they knew they really needed a run stuffer, and they needed someone with a great track record of, taking up 2 blockers and things like that. And what they found was a guy who was still getting better into his second contract and actually really improved his ability to get after the passer. Now, this is not somebody who's going to rack up, 10 sacks from the defensive tackle position, but as a pocket pusher, as a guy who can create pressure, he is really, I think, improved over the years, and I think that says something about him. But he's one of the most intelligent players you're ever going to be around, one of the most beloved in the locker room, and a guy who's going to do his job on a very consistent basis. He's somebody that you have to actually go back and watch the All-22 to see it, and you have to focus on him, because if you're just sitting at home on your couch and watching the ball, then you're probably going to miss a lot of the things that a defensive tackle does. But he could play right over the center. He could play in the 3 technique. He could play first, second, third down if you want him to. I mean, I think he's worth what they pay, that he's a really excellent player. And if the Vikings would have had it their way, he would have signed back here.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't understand. This goes to I guess the way you construct the defense. When I look at what the Vikings had, I mean, you had Za'Darius Smith, you had Dalvin Tomlinson. How was their defensive front? How was the defense in general so bad? And you even had Danielle Hunter over there. What, like, was it the just scheme? Was it the coach? How did that happen? Because in a lot of ways, we were trying to figure out whether it was our defensive line here or was it the coaching that really caused us to be so terrible.
Yeah, that's always the question, right? Like, is it the players, or is it the play calls, or is it the general scheme, or what might it be? And it was a horrific defense. I mean, even when you go back and look at some of the quarterbacks that lit them up, Mac Jones had the best day of his career. Mike White went bananas against them. I mean, it wasn't, and Daniel Jones got all that money just because of the Minnesota Vikings, but it truly had nothing to do with Dalvin Tomlinson or Za'Darius Smith. Those guys did their job. I mean, I thought Tomlinson was one of their better players last year, and Za'Darius Smith, double-digit sacks, top 5 in pressures, and the same with Danielle Hunter, who was also top 10 in pressures and double-digit sacks. But if you can't cover anybody, you're going to get lit up in this league. I mean, because you're only pressuring the quarterback at best, 3 out of 10 snaps, 4 out of 10 snaps, getting 1, 2, 3 sacks a game unless you're a really, truly dominant defense. So if you can't cover anybody, you're going to have a lot of problems. And that was really what it was last year. They were playing a replacement level nickel corner who just got attacked all the time. They completely switched their defensive scheme, but still had holdovers from the last scheme. And I don't think that went very well, particularly Eric Kendricks. Kendricks is a great player, and yet last year he was kind of a replacement level player by the way that he produced, and I don't think that he suddenly fell off skill-wise or intelligence-wise. I think he just really didn't fit with what they wanted to do schematically, and they fired their defensive coordinator for a reason. I don't think it was just because the numbers that they put up. I think it was also because they felt that he wasn't anywhere near aggressive enough, that they didn't blitz enough, which is why they've brought in Brian Flores. But I also think that it comes down to Cam Dantzler didn't work out as a corner for them. Chandon Sullivan didn't. They drafted a safety in the first round who basically didn't play. They drafted a corner in the second round who basically didn't play. I mean, I think it had a lot more to do with just the coverage unit than it did the defensive line.
Matt, Albert Breer was on another program in the city, I believe 2 days ago, and was asked about Za'Darius Smith, and he referenced he could be a Jadeveon Clowney 2.0 in terms of his locker room presence and attitude. Knowing what you know about Za'Darius Smith and his time in Minnesota, did you ever hear any rumblings about him not being, an upstanding guy in the locker room or have any character issues like that?
Yeah, I don't know that I would say not upstanding. I think what I would say is maybe walks to the beat of his own drum, could be that kind of thing. And maybe also, and it's hard to make too many character assessments on guys because I don't know him deeply. In fact, he would have had to show up in the locker room occasionally for me to get to know him, but he never did. He was never around. I mean, so we talked to him, I think, once in training camp and once before the playoff game, and I don't remember him doing any media in between that point. And I think it got to the point where we as a beat had to go kind of to the league and say, because players are supposed to be available every week. We're usually pretty lax on that if a guy's not around for a few weeks, but if he's not around for the full season, I think that's the only way we actually got him to talk. So he wasn't around really at all and wanted nothing to do with media. He wasn't going to be dapping up any reporters in the locker room. And I also think that the Vikings expected he was going to be back this year. I think that they found out when everybody else did that he was leaving Minnesota when he suddenly tweeted something like, "Goodbye, thanks for the memories." Like, okay, I guess Za'Darius isn't coming back. And I think that they thought that he was happy with his contract after signing a 2-year deal. Like, why did you sign a 2-year deal if you only wanted a 1-year deal? But from his perspective, if you put up the numbers that he put up last year and you look at what you're making cash-wise and what other people are making cash-wise, you kind of get it, right? He was going to be underpaid, and the Vikings had no cap space to do anything in terms of flexibility to give him more cash, which he deserves. So is there kind of an aloofness to him? Maybe. I think it's maybe more of some guys see themselves as independent contractors. I'm here to do my job and get my contract. And I think that's okay. I don't know what Jadeveon Clowney was like, but I think that that's kind of how Za'Darius views his career, is like, this is what I get paid for, and I'm going to get every dollar I can, and I don't really care where I play.
Yeah, I think Jadeveon Clowney had that. Now, Jadeveon, he went and told the team, allegedly, that he was only going to play on certain downs and distances. So that may be, a step too far as being an independent contractor. But, let's talk about Za'Darius Smith. And, yes, he is a very good contractor to what he brings to the table, if healthy. I mean, I said this earlier. I said, even when you look at Jadeveon Clowney and Za'Darius Smith has way more, he has better traits as a pass rusher than a guy who may be more athletic. When you look at his bend, when you look at him being able to turn and him being able to rush inside a little bit more, little more functional power when he's transitioning to the quarterback. I said that Za'Darius Smith probably is the best pass rusher Myles Garrett has played with. Do you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I would have loved to have had more conversations with him about his pass rush in the locker room, but I have very little negative to say about Za'Darius Smith as a player. I have a ton of respect for what he does. The thing about him is he is one of the most powerful rushers you're ever going to come across. So he can take tackles and drive them back into the quarterback. And when they put him over a guard or over a center in a pass rushing situation, it is a complete mismatch, which usually is because of speed. But with him, it's actually because of power and also a very, very technical player. I mean, he's great with his hands, super powerful hands, but also has a lot of pass rush moves in his tool bag that he's developed over the years. He is a guy that would prefer, I think, to play every single snap. He was not a guy that was looking to the sideline, when are you going to take me out, and only wanting to play in certain downs or something like that. I mean, this guy played the whole second half of the year through a knee injury. It hurt his production, but I also think he didn't want to miss any weeks. He didn't want to miss any time, and it wasn't technically a contract year, so I think he was really just, the type of player he is. He's an intense competitor, down in and down out. He's terrifying for the defense, and the biggest thing to me is the guy's football IQ. He knows how to rush from all sorts of different positions. There are a lot of guys who are only comfortable on my side. This is what I do. Danielle Hunter, they've tried to move him around a little. It's like, nope, you can't do that. He's only going to rush off that left end. But with Za'Darius Smith, the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, and he does not know where Za'Darius Smith is going to be, and he's effective from all those different places. So, I mean, as far as an actual player, I mean, he might be the independent contractor type, but he fulfills that contract. I think everybody who has lost Za'Darius Smith wanted Za'Darius Smith to still be there.
Hey, Matt, he comes over with Dalvin Tomlinson, and chemistry along the defensive line between two different pass rushers is a big deal. So the Browns getting two guys who have worked together in Tomlinson and Smith should help them assimilate into this new Jim Schwartz defense. When you look I'm going to ask you from an outsider's perspective now, looking at the Browns, Za'Darius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, Myles Garrett. They signed Obo Okwankwo with some other guys they've drafted. I know it's kind of similar to that Minnesota defensive line with Garrett swapping out for Danielle Hunter, who's also an elite pass rusher, but how do you block those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you have here is versatility with those players that you signed as well. I mean, because with Dalvin Tomlinson, we don't really think of interior fat guys as being versatile, right? We kind of think of them as just, hey, be in the middle, be Ted Washington, stuff some giant blocks in there, and you'll be good, and make sure they don't run for more than 2 yards every play. But that's not who Dalvin Tomlinson is. He's not this big, giant, fat guy who can only do one thing. He can line up at 3 technique. In fact, he had the different roles from different years with the Vikings. They switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4 base system. So he was playing 3 technique at one point with Michael Pierce over the nose. And then last year he was playing more over the nose and sometimes, playing mixing and matching with Harrison Phillips. So I think that gives you a lot of different things that you can do with him for how you're setting up your defensive line. And then with Za'Darius Smith, you can put extra edge rushers on the field and put him at linebacker pretty much whenever you want because he's capable of doing that. Now, I wouldn't want him playing in coverage too often, but that's not anything anybody's going to do unless they're insane. But I mean, rushing from a lot of different spots, I think that if you're an opposing offense, it's not just about blocking, well, this guy's good and this guy's good and this guy's good, but it's also blocking how are they going to look on third down? Where is this guy going to line up? And you can really load up. He allows you to bring somebody else off of the bench and put them at their premium position, which might be on the outside as well. And the Vikings didn't really have anybody who could take advantage of that last year. They had some young guys that they drafted, Patrick Jones, DJ Wanham. They got a handful of sacks combined. But if you have somebody who's actually good, who's coming off the bench and rotating, I think it gives you a ton of different options to use Za'Darius Smith in a lot of ways. And he is totally comfortable doing that however and whenever you want him to do it.
Matt, on June 2nd, is Dalvin Cook still on the Vikings?
Yeah, probably not. No, I would say no. Yeah, I mean, everything that they've done has pointed to Dalvin Cook not being on the Vikings. I mean, it was only a couple of days into the free agency period where Alexander Mattison re-signed. And if you're Alexander Mattison and you've sat behind Dalvin Cook for 4 years waiting your turn, I don't think that you're signing back that quickly unless they told you you're the guy. Because, this poor guy, he's a good football player, and he's just had to sit there and sit there and sit there. And the only time he's ever gotten his opportunities is when Dalvin Cook is out. They didn't even use him as a rotational back very often. And I actually think that he did some things like catching the football and pass blocking a little better than Dalvin Cook. But this team has been obsessed with Dalvin Cook pretty much since he got here, which I understand. It's just that they would never rotate anybody else. So I think that he's got to be desperate to get his opportunity to show he could be a bell cow back. And he would have gone looking anywhere else if he didn't think he was going to get that opportunity. And then just to kind of solidify it, they draft a guy, Dwayne McBride. It was the 7th round, but the way that they talked about him was not like you would ever talk about a 7th round pick. They think that he has potential to be a significant player for this team. They drafted Ty Chandler last year in the 5th round. They drafted Kene Nwangwu 2 years ago. Like, they've been preparing for this. They're throwing numbers at it. And when you look at the cap situation, they're still, even after moving Za'Darius Smith, pretty short on cap space. They could use it to sign another pass rusher. They could use it to even just, when they're going to do extensions for TJ Hawkinson or Justin Jefferson or Danielle Hunter, spread some of that money out into 2023. So they still need, more cap space. And I think that moving on from Dalvin Cook is the right way to go. And plus, if you have an analytics GM, you can't be keeping a $12 or $14 million running back who's 28 years old, right? That just goes against everything you're supposed to believe in.
Interesting. Matt, how long have you been covering the Vikings, just out of curiosity?
2016 was my first year. So
you were there for quite a while when Kevin Stefanski was the offensive coordinator. In your opinion, what's your take on Stefanski as an offensive creator and a play caller?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Stefanski, I think all of us who covered the team thought that he should have been the offensive coordinator in 2018 for the Vikings when they instead went with John DeFilippo and missed the playoffs that year with a lot of, battling between him and Mike Zimmer. Kevin Stefanski to me is like Gary Kubiak reincarnated. When Gary was here, although Gary's still alive, so I don't know if that's possible. But when Gary Kubiak was here, and the legend of Gary Kubiak, I mean, the guy was around forever with the Broncos. He made the Texans relevant, which is not an easy thing to do, and won the Super Bowl with the Broncos when he came back to them. And so, his resume, and I think that those two had so much in common. They had great synergy. They really saw the game the same way. The zone running scheme, the play action bootlegs off of that, using a lot of things that look the same, but having them actually be different. His screen game when he was here was absolutely brilliant. And I also think that the way that Kevin Stefanski got along with players and a very cantankerous coach, which not every offensive coordinator got along with, trust me, I thought that his patience for dealing with people would make him a good head coach. And I know that it's been kind of an up and down, a rocky ride there in Cleveland at times for him. But I've always had a very, very high opinion of him as an offensive mind and as a personality, as someone that really knows how to deal well with people.
Matt, great insight. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you, man.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
Have a good one.
He knows the team really well, obviously.
He dropped some names I've never heard of. Someone like the guys they drafted in the backup second, third round.
And gave you some great insight on the Browns players that they've acquired from Minnesota. Juan Thornhill.
Speaking of Browns players.
Yeah, we got to get into this. But first, Anthony, tell me
Yeah, guys,
something.
I just want to remind everybody that you can all see your favorite golf legends play in the Colleague Companies Championship, July 12th through the 16th at the famous Firestone Country Club. Fun, family-friendly events all week long featuring a new fan zone experience, free attendance for kids, and concerts every night. There's something for everyone. Learn more at colleaguegolf.com. And since we're still talking football, I just want to remind you guys that the USFL is going on. You guys can get great seats starting at just $10. They've got T-shirts, rally towels. Buy your tickets today at USFL.com.
Speaking of the USFL, real quick before we get to Juan Thornhill, yesterday I was out at T3, which is a great facility out in Avon.
Is that the hitting facility, Aaron?
Well, yeah, that's where I take Aaron for. He's been doing hitting and fielding practice for a while, but yesterday I took him with a new coach for pitching for the first time. And the coach, Zach, had a really interesting way of kind of teaching pitching. I thought it was fascinating. But anyway, they also train football. They were doing some football training there.
So
it's
all
a really huge
kind of
facility.
training. Gotcha.
And they're actually opening a new another facility right next door to do basketball and volleyball too. But anyway, it's a great place. And a lot of, if you're a diehard Cleveland sports fan, you may remember this name I'm going to mention because I ran into him there yesterday because he works there. Well, first of all, Mike D'Andrea is the owner of T3, who was a legend in high school and played at Ohio State, dealt with injuries. But another guy who works there is a guy named Colin Taylor. So for those who don't know, Colin Taylor played football at Indiana. But then he was one of the, I don't know if you remember this, G, he was one of the wide receivers on the Cleveland Gladiators.
Yes, I do remember Cleveland
He
Gladiators.
was a white receiver on the team.
They've been gone for
that
what,
Arena
since
League?
18?
Yeah, I can't remember how many years it's been. Probably,
But they were
18, 19.
18, yeah.
But remember, they played for the championship that one year.
Yep.
It was in Cleveland
Yep.
against the team from Phoenix. And the place was packed. It was at, the Cavs Arena.
Yep.
Packed. I was at that game. It was awesome.
Was it
Anyway,
Arena League?
Yeah.
Arena League, yeah. Colin Taylor was one of the really good players. It was a great team. Quentin Sims was another wide receiver. I actually know Quentin a little bit because my son and his son were good friends. They actually moved out of town. But Colin, I ran into him yesterday. He now works at T3. Great dude. I did some play-by-play for the Gladiators one season when their reporter was traveling with the minor league hockey team because they had gone to the finals in hockey. So I got a chance to do a bunch of games. And Colin was a really awesome dude. And he just told me yesterday he's getting married in a few months. So congratulations to Colin Taylor. And if anyway, so and T3 is a great place. So just wanted to mention that real quick. Now, Juan Thornhill. So yesterday we talked on the show about the fact that Juan Thornhill was complaining about there's a lot of negativity. He doesn't like it. Nothing that happened before last year doesn't matter. We responded and talked about how, hey, it does matter. It matters to us. It matters to people like G who've been having to deal with crappy football for 30 years and fans that have been watching this team suck forever. We get it that Juan Thornhill wants to come in here and we hope he does it. But until that happens, you can't blame some people from being a little skeptical. Yeah. And you guys posted a video of my comments on this, and Juan Thornhill retweeted it, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, today I put out because a couple of people were like complaining about my comments. And so I, were like, who can, they're going to be good and this and that or whatever. So I said, I responded, this guy Alex on Twitter said, funny how the original tweet did, blah, blah. He's trying to change the narrative around here. My response to that was, a player talking doesn't change shit. You want to change the narrative? Win some effing games. Is that fair? Like, a player could come in here. Again, I love Juan Thornhill's attitude. It's all good. And I told him that because I did respond. He responded to me and I responded to him.
We're getting there.
So, but like, ultimately, all the talking in the world is meaningless. If you don't win, it doesn't matter. So if they win, that's going to change the narrative about the Browns. And not just get to the playoffs, but once you, like, the Bengals, when they made even the Super Bowl, last year there were a lot of people who thought the Bengals would go backwards because they didn't have any track record of consistent success. Mm-hmm. Winning one year is one thing. Consistent success, that's another thing.
Yes.
You've got to be a decent franchise to consistently win. So that's what the Browns got to do. And that's the only way you really change the narrative. Right? So I thought my statement was fair. So Juan Thornhill responded to what I said, which I love.
Do we have the tweet, Anthony?
And this is what Juan Thornhill said in response to my tweet. He said, I'll keep my comment to myself, thumbs up emoji, but we hear you. Now, I don't know what his comment was going to be. It doesn't sound like he don't sound pissed off to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading it. Is he pissed off?
I can't tell if that's passive aggressive or not.
No, he said, I ain't gonna say what I'm gonna say, but said thumbs up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not gonna be Twitter thumbing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be Twitter thumbing. We hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
So I responded. All right, I wrote this to Juan Thornhill. This is what I tweeted. I don't know if you have my tweet. Do you have it or no?
I can go grab it real quick, but if you want to read it.
Sorry, so this is what I said. Hey Juan, I love your passion and energy. Glad you want to turn it around here. I believe you guys, the Browns, have a chance to be really good. But you can't expect people that have been watching crappy football for so many years to not want a team to prove it on the field before you get total buy-in. That's what I said there.
Yeah.
I went on to say, it's a long tweet. My second paragraph there was...
He pays for Twitter Blue, so he can tweet that long.
Exactly. Yeah. I said, that being said, love the interaction here, and you have an open invite to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show to try to shut up the doubters. Most fun show in Cleveland.
Facts.
So, listen, Juan Thornhill, you want to come in? You want to yell at me? You want to tell me I'm an idiot? Whatever you want to do. Open invitation. I'm rooting for you. I want you to have great success. But the talking don't matter. All that matters is winning on the field. But open invitation to Juan Thornhill. We'd love him to come in studio on the whatever. He's got to be at his house, whatever he wants to do. If he wants to change the narrative with talking, which you can't really do, but he wants to do it here, go for it. Has there been further response?
Cue that clip. We'll tweet it out at him. Make sure it's out there. So take a note. It was 12, 25, 26-ish.
And since we talked...
This is a lame response. Sorry, G, but this guy, some random dude on Twitter is like, maybe from his perspective, he wonders why Cleveland fans don't seem to appreciate they still have a team. That's the most absurd, idiotic response. What? People are supposed to kiss the Browns' ass and the Browns players' asses just because they have a team? Yeah, of course they have a team.
I don't like
this
that.
This city supports the team. They go to games. They buy the stupid jerseys. They do all this stuff despite the fact the team has been unworthy and unwatchable for most of the last 3 decades.
And furthermore, here's what we're going to do. Because I don't really be involved in it. I'm just looking around. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, what we're not going to do is we're not going to take time to jump on these lines and jump on people's timelines. I don't know who this guy is. Sarge BKM at G Bush. Is Bull your boss? Are you his water boy? He baits you every day and you kowtow every time.
Ridiculous.
I know it won't matter, but I am so done with you. I hope others follow me. It's about platform, and I don't know what that said, my brother. Well, let me tell you, my brother, you can't gaslight G. Bush. See, here's the thing, bro. Just because you black and I'm black don't mean we come from the same area. And as Stephen A. Smith said, listen, I disagree with everybody, and I disagree when it counts. I don't see y'all calling out Roger Goodell in the NFL. I don't see y'all calling out. Listen, I done had arguments with people that really can get you up out of here. How many times you done had them conversations? So when I say something, I stand on it 10 toes from nothing. I came from nothing. I came from sleeping on couches, telling people what I think. At the end of the day, Bull stand on his word. Jay stand on his word. McNuggets stand on. Ain't nobody up in the UCSS. We have conversations. Ain't nobody. Everybody in here has got their own opinion. No, if it's from the directors to the producers, we have conversations. Ain't nobody over nobody. And what y'all got to understand here in sports is sometimes somebody gonna have an opinion about something. That's that man's opinion. If you got a problem with that man's opinion, go talk to him. Or maybe you should have a conversation with him and verbally joust and do some things. At the end of the day, our job here is to tell you what we think and to give you the tone of certain things. Juan Thornhill, shout out to you, my brother. We like the energy you bringing from the Kansas City Chiefs. You know why? Because you guys winning championships over there. We want that same energy over here. But sometimes you got to realize that you might be used to filet mignon and we've been dealing with hamburger helper. So it's two different levels to it, McNugget. So, like, you can't come with that energy and expect everybody to be on. But like Bull said, if y'all come win games, you ain't no disrespect to Kansas City. You never gonna have a better fan base than you got right here.
That's right.
Ask LeBron James. He broke the scoring record in LA. If he tell you to a man, he wish he probably broke that scoring record here because we gonna support you. We gonna ride with you. It's a feeling you get when you ride through the Muni lot. Ain't no Muni lot in Kansas City. Ain't no Muni lot. Ain't nobody. You ain't gonna see 1-15, 0-16, and you still got thousands of people supporting you like that. No disrespect to no other fan base. This is the best fan base in the world because they going to come mess with you and they going to genuinely show you love no matter if you win or lose. And that's why I advocate so hard for them because they deserve better. They deserve more. So if it's between the players or the guys, at the end of the day, the Browns uniforms is going to last forever. That's going to be here. So I represent the brand. I'm going to be gone. One day you'll be gone. One day McNuggets will be gone. And they'll still be talking about the Browns in the Muni lot. So at the end of the day, that's what I support. And if you get on the bandwagon, I'm sure they'll support you too.
2 points. One, to your point about do we ever think we're going to do a segment in a second on some Jarrett Allen trades. And I'm going to show you what Anthony said.
Get to that yet,
No, I'm not done. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what Anthony said. I'm going to show you what Earl said. I'm going to show you what G sent in. They could not be more wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling y'all right now. But guess what? This is a platform where if you want to present an idea and back it up, and I see Earl laughing, he's going to try telling me they need Kevin Porter Jr., and I'm going to try telling him get the hell out of here. But that is why this platform works. To your point on Juan Thornhill and to what G just said, sometimes two people could be right at the same time, even if they're coming at from different perspectives. Juan Thornhill can say, "I don't like the negativity," and that's cool. And
I honestly don't.
Or as you guys
on this
say,
show, there's not a lot of negativity right now.
No. And Browns fans, and I'll use G as the diehard, born and raised in Cleveland Browns fan, can say, I've spent 41 years of my life watching pretty crappy football, so I'm not going to jump on. Now, he's a Duke knee jerk. Sometimes he does jump the gun, but it's fair for him to say, I'm not ready to fully buy in until I see this team win. So I think in this instance, and I hope, Juan, come on in, dude. Like, I know my sister lived in Charlottesville for a few years. You went to University of Virginia. We'll talk about the Citizen Burger, best burger in Virginia, by the way. Come on in. We'll pull up a chair whenever you want. You're not the first pitch of the Guardians game next week. Maybe you should come in before then. Love to have you in, but I think Juan has a point, and I think what you said is totally valid. I think both are absolutely right at the same time, even though you may be coming at it from different perspectives.
And let me just say something. So to this Sarge character, and he's a veteran, so I give him major props for that. And because I wasn't gutsy enough to go in the military, and I appreciate that he watches the show. And you say you're not going to watch because you're annoyed at me or whatever. You're going to still watch because if you weren't going to watch, you wouldn't tweet at the show. But I got to say that your comments are way out of line. Your comments to G are I think embarrassing. You should be ashamed of yourself for those comments because nobody's anybody's boss here. Even the actual bosses are not real bosses. Steve Becker's the executive producer of the show. We bust his balls all the time. Nobody's bossing anybody around here, okay? And by the way, G and I have had plenty of debates and arguments about sports.
God.
But we got love for each other and we're friends, and that's all that matters. And this idea that he wouldn't argue with me because he's got to carry my water, whatever stupid thing you said, is the most idiotic thing. First of all, if anybody didn't argue with me on this show because they were afraid or whatever, which I know is absurd, I'd be pissed about it. If you disagree, we want argument.
Yeah.
We love having arguments here. So, but there is no argument. Deshaun Watson played poorly last year. I don't know what this guy wants. That's when the whole thing started with this guy, because he was mad that you said Deshaun Watson was bad with no proof. All 6 games was proof. What are you talking about?
We started the whole show. Speaking of just random arguments,
Yeah.
the picture you sent us of Aaron this morning.
Yeah.
What was he wearing?
That's right.
His 10th birthday. Rocking the barbershop.
Yeah, it
So
is.
if you needed any proof that there's no bad blood between these two.
Well, no, this guy wasn't
he
saying
wants
bad
it.
blood. He
saying-
wants more bad
he's
blood.
saying-
no,
you
I
should-
know, but I'm just
you
saying,
should
like,
be
there
killing
clearly
him.
is. That's your visual proof that there's
And
no.
another
what?
thing, Anthony carried the water around here.
It's true.
That's
Do not
true.
take my job away from me,
Anthony
G.
does
That's all I
carry the
got.
water. Anthony carries the water.
Juan, anytime you want to pull up, seriously, we would love to have you. We open invite, as Bo said, open invite. I promise
he
you'll have
has to
some
do it
fun.
now. He gotta
Steve
do it
just
now.
tweeted WTF after I made that comment.
Steve did?
Yeah.
Steve doesn't tweet. Oh, he texted us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm about to say,
Sorry,
dang.
not tweet.
Steve doesn't
text.
tweet.
Yeah.
I said,
Okay.
dang, he
Well,
tweeted that?
guys, speaking of arguments, I'm going to remind everybody real quick that you can see your favorite golf legends play in the Collie
Great
Company
transit. He's a
Championship
pro.
July
Yeah,
12th
that-
and July
that
16th
transition.
at the famous Firestone Country Club. Fun family-friendly events all week long featuring a new fan zone experience, free attendance for kids, concerts every night. There's something for everybody at colleague.com. But now we're getting into the real arguments of these trades.
I
Mike,
see
do you
Earl-
wanna-
I see Earl
Earl's
laughing back
losing it
there.
back
I see
here.
Earl laughing,
I
bro.
can't pronounce fun family-friendly events to save my life.
Try to say it 3 times fast, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fun family-friendly events, fun family-friendly events, fun family-friendly events.
You did it.
Damn,
Yeah,
bro.
that was tough.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
I didn't think you had
Mike,
it
do you
in you.
want to start us off with these trades, though?
Yeah, okay, so
Tell us about this.
Yeah, so we talked on Tuesday. We did some potential 3-and-D free agents for the Cavaliers, and Jason went through. Jason said of the 3 that I presented, which was Malik Beasley, Dante DiVincenzo, and Georges Niang, that DiVincenzo was, in his opinion, their best option. But after that, and we're going to do next week, I got some feedback on that. We'll do some other free agent options potentially. We'll go through that next week. But afterwards, G was like, man, I don't care who they sign for a 3-and-D. They got to trade Jarrett Allen.
Yeah.
So you give me a challenge. I'm going to go to the ESPN trade machine. It's one of my favorite places to spend a few hours on a random Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
And I came up with some potential Jarrett Allen trades that met a couple criteria. One, it had to be successful on ESPN.com, which is not the perfect trade machine concoctor, but at least it does the math for you. So I didn't have to do the math. So the numbers had to work out. 2, it had to be realistic. Like, we're not trading Jarrett Allen to the Hawks when they have Clint Capella. So it couldn't be to a team that I
Doesn't
thought
need him.
doesn't need a center.
Yeah.
And 3, it had to be something fair. So I didn't include picks. You could throw us a couple second-round picks in there if you wanted because they don't have any first-round picks to trade. But essentially, I came up with 4 that I thought were quasi-realistic. You guys tell me which one you like the best of the 4. And then G sent me one, Anthony sent me one, and Earl sent me one, so we'll run through theirs to end.
Are we gonna? We should put up a poll. Who made the best, rank?
Well, I have
Who had
4.
the best offer? Who had the worst?
I have 4.
Okay. Who's the 4th?
And we should give it this.
Oh, in addition to your 4.
We should
And
get.
so you can
No,
do,
I'm just saying, just between G, Anthony, and Earl.
yeah, between these 3. So put a poll up. Who had
who's
the
got
best,
the best
crazy one? Okay.
offer?
So and these had to get
Or
some
the most
return.
reasonable, not the best offer for the Cavs.
Well,
but the
none
one
of
that makes
none
the
of these are reasonable. We're just
Okay,
gonna throw it out. None
fair
of these
enough.
are even remotely. Anthony's is gonna blow up. If y'all, Anthony is.
Oh,
Hold up,
I'm gonna
Anthony.
piss off
hold
a
on,
lot of
hold on.
people with
Anthony
mine.
has never said anything controversial on the show. Y'all are gonna be pissed off at Anthony about 10 minutes. I'm telling y'all right
I
now.
like
All right,
that.
here it
Let's
is.
see what we
Okay.
got.
So the caveats: money had to work. It had to
Yeah,
go
of
to a
course.
team that needed a center, and it had to bring something back to the Cavs that made them better. In my
And it
opinion,
had
at
to be a
least
fair trade.
a
for
fair
both
trade,
teams.
yes. Which we'll see with theirs.
Okay.
Fair maybe out the window. But trade number 1, Anthony, you can take it full. 2 trades with the Mavs. The first one, send Jarrett Allen to the Mavericks. You
Yeah.
get Tim Hardaway Jr., an equally priced
I think
wing, and Theo Pinson back.
I think is a made-up name. I think he was one of the kids on the Cosby Show.
No,
I have never heard of Theo
he's only
Pinson.
in there for the salary. So
Okay.
it's essentially a Tim Hardaway Jr. for Jarrett Allen. You need to
got
throw.
you.
He was their 13th man. He's a point guard,
Yeah.
a backup guard, athletic,
whatever.
but he makes $1.3 million and needed a little bit of salary to fix. So trade one, essentially a Jarrett Allen for Tim Hardaway Jr. swap to the Mavericks.
Give me the bullet points on Tim Hardaway Jr.
He's a shooter. He can create a little bit of offense.
Yeah.
He's 6'5". He's not a great defender.
Yeah.
But he brings an element to this team of 3 and D.
What did he shoot from 3?
39%. He's about a 40% for his career. And he averaged about 15, 16 points per game as a legit number 3 option in Dallas with Luka controlling the ball very often.
Right.
So he's used to playing without the ball. It's not my favorite of the ones. We'll get to my favorite in a little bit.
All
but
right, what do you think of
that
that
was
one,
one that at least worked on paper.
It's a 3-point shooter. My question is,
Can we get his dad in?
right. Can we get your pops?
Yeah.
How much better does it make? I think it does make them nominally better, just a tick better offensively.
Yeah.
Obviously, they would get a little bit worse defensively.
Yes.
So I mean, I could see it's a move that says we're trying to do something.
Yes. And all these moves,
Just moving the deck chairs.
Yeah.
around.
all these moves
Yeah.
mean Evan Mobley will play the 5 with more shooting around them.
Yeah.
My end goal of this is Evan Mobley's now your 5.
You know, to that point, sometimes you just got to shake things up.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't seem,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a ridiculous comparison right now.
Okay.
My fantasy baseball team, the pitching is terrible. My pitching has been a disaster. So I put a post up on I'm like, make me trades for my pitchers. I have to trade them. I have to trade 3 or 4 of my starting pitchers. I got to blow it up. So I traded Aaron Nola of the Phillies. Been a huge disappointment.
Yep.
So I traded him for a deal that on paper it's like, did I get any better? I don't know. But I got to shake up the chemistry on my roster instead of the Cavs. It's a terrible comparison, but anyway.
Trade
I
number-
was waiting to say, did you win or did you go on like a
Too early
5-game
to tell,
winning
right?
streak? Yeah,
Too
too
early to
early.
Too early to tell.
Okay.
We don't know about the chemistry yet.
Trade number 2 is my favorite of the 4.
All right.
It also involves the Mavs, but instead, we are sending Jarrett Allen and Dean Wade to Dallas, and in return, getting Maxi Kleba, Reggie Bullock, and JaVale McGee back. If you guys aren't familiar,
McGee and Bullock are older players, right?
McGee's just replaces Robin Lopez,
okay.
essentially. Bullock is a guy who stands in the corner and shoots threes at a very high percentage.
Okay.
Average defender. He's not great, but he's definitely not an absolute negative. And
Okay.
Kleba's a stretch 4 who's a very good defender and a versatile defender. So then you get a
Can he
stretch.
shoot?
Yes, he's a good stretch 4. So you have a stretch 4 to pair with.
Why would the Mavs do this trade?
They need a rim-running pick-and-roll threat with Jarrett Allen. They have no center. Christian Wood, who played center for them this year,
Yeah.
leaving in free agency, said he's not re-signing. So
Okay.
they are in desperate need of a legitimate big. They tried the JaVale McGee experiment. It did not work this year. Allen's young enough, good enough defensively to anchor their
Upgrade.
defense. None of those guys are a true rim protector. Kleba's a switch kind
So,
of roam 4
Is
that would
Bullock
fit in.
starting as your 3 for the Cavs?
I think you get 2 starters out of that trade. I think Bullock starts at the 3
And
as a
Kleber-
floor spacer
Kleber
who
starts
doesn't.
at the 4?
Neither of them need the ball offensively. They will stand in the corner and shoot threes. So that gives you Mobley, Garland, Mitchell to run pick and rolls with, and 2 shooters in the corner.
And can McGee play a few minutes off the bench?
He's
or
your
no?
Robin Lopez. So yeah. So
better
play.
than Ro- is
He's
he
better than Robin Lopez.
more useful than Robin
I
Lopez?
believe he's still better than Robin
I
Lopez.
mean, that seems to make sense to me. I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the move. I like the way you explained it. You could get me 2 starters in there. Which if you give me 2 starters, that means I can drop Okoro off the bench. I can have LeVert coming in off the bench.
Yeah.
You can still keep Jetty off the bench. Now
Do we think Rubio is completely shot, or now a year past the surgery, could he still be?
I'm not banking on it.
We'll figure it out. Like all you need is to figure out during the year which 3 or 4 guys, 3 guys that you can count on in the playoffs. If Rubio is one of them, cool.
Yeah.
If he's not, all right. If Okoro is one of the guys because he's developing some shooting, okay. But if you get 2 starters, I ain't got a problem.
And
with
one
that.
more piece in that trade, all 3 of those guys have played legitimate playoff minutes before.
That's true.
They all have been at least on a Western Conference Finals team, and McGee won a championship with
Right,
the
right,
Lakers.
right.
So
Okay.
guys who have at least shown
All
they're
right.
capable of playing the playoffs.
I like that one
The most.
That
so
is
far.
my favorite of the 4, I'll be
Okay.
honest. Okay, trade 3 involves the San Antonio Spurs, who are going to draft Victor Wembanyama, who is a 7'4" center. However,
By the way, you said they had nothing. They have Devin Vassell. He's a really good player,
that's
isn't he?
he's a second-year guy, though. Steve, pull the trade back up here real quick.
All
So
right.
he's not nothing. And they got
Yeah.
Keldon Johnson, who scored 20
You get
points.
the Buckeye.
They do. So in this trade, you'd send Jarrett Allen to the Spurs. You get Doug McDermott, Kem Birch, and Malachi Branham back. Here's why I think it makes sense on both sides. Wembanyama is 7'4". He's a center, yes, but defensively, I don't think you can count him to be a true center yet. Put him next to Jarrett Allen, the perfect role model for a young guy to go in there.
That's
They
true.
have cap space, so they have $40 million in cap space. They could take a little money back in this deal. Allen, he's without a doubt a serviceable center. Is he an all-star? He was. Is he still? I don't think so, but he's certainly a serviceable center. In this trade back, you get Doug McDermott, who is a very, very capable stretch four. Can play a little bit of the three, but he's more of a stretch four. He can actually come off screens, unlike Maxi Kleber in the last one. You can run some sets for him.
Yeah.
Ken Birch is your backup big there. He's not a
Branham plays
center.
stiff.
But he's not a total
very well.
stiff.
He ain't a he's a stiff. He's a stiff plus.
When
Yes.
Vassell was hurt? Or?
Keldon Johnson got hurt, and he played for Johnson a little bit
And
at
he
the end of the
played
season.
really
He
well.
played pretty well.
Yeah.
So if you get a young guy back, it might be too much for San Antonio to give up. However, I do like the idea of San Antonio looking to get a veteran big to pair with Wembanyama. So
And
there you
plus, I could play Wemby. I could play him at 4.
Right.
And I don't.
offensively, he's a 4. Defensively, he's a
and for
5.
San
But
Antonio-
I don't want. But I don't know if I want him banging down there.
Exactly.
Actually, Jarrett Allen would make a lot of sense for San Antonio.
I spent a lot of time
because
on
they
this.
don't have he's be their one guy who's not there.
Yeah, and he don't got to run nothing for him. He's gonna say he's gonna be a rim protector.
Yep.
Because they got
I think
Wemby who could shoot. They got Keldon Johnson who could shoot.
Vassell
Devin
who can shoot. And they just signed Devontae Graham as their point guard, who not great, but he can shoot.
I might like
I
that
like
one.
that trade too.
So I'm not sure if San
And
Antonio would
Branham's
do that.
like a player on the rise.
He was a rookie last year,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he's got some potential.
Yeah.
And he would fit in. Okay, and my last trade I came up with the Thunder. Do you know no one on the Thunder averaged 5 rebounds a game last year?
That's correct.
0 people on the Thunder.
Yeah.
Now they get Chet
Wow.
Holmgren coming back in. He was off injury, but just like
that's right. I
Wembanyama,
forgot about that.
Chet Holmgren weighs about $162, soaking wet. I'm not sure if you're ready to have him be your true center, which is where Jarrett Allen comes into play. Lou Dort, he makes a lot of money. You can almost do that straight up, those two money-wise. He's
Such a weird name.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
Lou,
I
it's
can't
Lugan
picture a guy
Dort's
named
Dort.
Lou Dort being good at basketball.
He signed a 5-year, $80 million
I know.
contract. He's a
Doesn't make
3-and-D
any
guy, super streaky, but a very good defender. 6'5", 6'6", can guard bigger perimeter wings. And Jalen Williams, that's not the really good Jalen Williams. They had 2 rookie Jalen
I
Williams
know.
last year.
I'm mad.
This is the one from Arkansas, not the really good one. This is the second Jalen Williams, who's a versatile 4.
I
don't love this trade as much, but I was just trying to find something that
I
worked.
like the San Antonio trade and then the second Dallas trade. I would do both of those.
I would do the Dallas trade still. I like the San Antonio trade. The San Antonio trade, I think, gets San Antonio a lot better, a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Like, I think that really makes a lot of sense.
Pop doesn't have forever there. What do you think San Antonio or Dallas would make those trades?
So when I went to do the Dallas pilot,
Yeah.
I texted this guy, Nick, who's the Locked On Mavs podcast guy, who's phenomenal. Nick Angstad, if you haven't checked him out and you like the Mavericks, phenomenal. He's one of
He got
Locked
one of
On's
the
top talent.
he got the best podcast on Locked On.
I
Real
asked him,
talk.
would you do the Tim Hardaway for Jarrett Allen trade? And he'd say, I would personally drive Tim Hardaway Jr. to the airport to make sure he got on that plane. So they would definitely do that. I asked him about the second one. And he's like, it's a lot to give up for a center, but Luka, he needs a big guy. He needs a rim runner. He needs someone who can anchor the defense. And he gave me, I'd have to think on it. So at least that meant to me, it's plausible. It's plausible.
And they got to do something with Luka. Like
They gotta make Luka
They
happy,
can't
yeah.
come back with the same squad,
Yeah.
bro. Like, it's just not happening.
It could be one of those moves that shuffles things up on both
Yeah.
ends for the sake of shuffling things up.
Right.
And the Spurs trade, I actually think it helps the Spurs more than it helps. Like, Jarrett Allen's by far the best player in that deal.
Yeah.
McDermott's a nice piece, but you're getting 3 pieces for the 1.
Yeah.
But I think that trade works the best maybe for both teams as how it
Yeah,
would
I
improve
like
both
that
teams.
trade. I like that. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Because
Like that
who's
trade.
the third player you're getting in that beside McDermott?
Ken Burke, who's another backup center.
Yeah, he's
okay.
he's ready.
Who's and he can shoot a little bit. Can't shoot a little bit, but
But
he's
you get 3 useful players,
3 useful
different
pieces,
levels
yeah.
of useful
Yes.
players. But you're doing that second Mavs trade. All right, nice job, Mike.
So, thank you, by the way. This next trade, I'm going to set up G here because it was something I was looking at. My buddy Matt Coller, who I play basketball with, I asked him, hey, we're doing Jarrett Allen trades. Send me your trade. And he suggested something that then G amplified.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you what he suggested, then we're going to pull up G's trade. G can explain
who is
his.
this guy? Just a random dude?
I play basketball with him, Matt.
Okay.
He watched the show every day. He's probably watching right now. What's up, Matt?
What's up, Matt?
We're
What
going
up,
out
Matt?
tonight. He wanted to trade Jarrett Allen for OG Anunoby straight up.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that.
I told him probably unrealistic. So then G came back, and G amplified that trade.
Yeah,
So G,
on steroids.
here's your trade involving Jarrett Allen and OG Anunoby.
So here's the thing. Like, they want to get for the Raptors, they want to get Scotty Barnes. Now, OG Anunoby is playing small forward, but Scotty Barnes plays small forward. Now, you got 2 dudes. They sometimes play a lineup where they play both of them, but once again, when you get a player like Scotty Barnes, who's already Rookie of the Year, what happens is their agents start looking at different things. Like, hold on, bro, he playing a lot of minutes at power forward. He is not a power forward. We see Scotty Barnes as a small forward. So they probably would not trade this. They would probably not trade OG Anunoby straight up for Jarrett Allen. And the reason is, that's just not enough going back. But if you are going to move Scotty Barnes directly to the small forward position, here's what we can do. We'll get you Isaac Okoro, who can now come off the bench.
Yeah.
And that can play behind Fred VanVleet if you want to guard somebody. Fred VanVleet is kind of small, but Isaac Okoro can guard.
VanVleet's a free agent, by the way.
Okay.
I think they'll keep him, right?
Yeah, it's got a lot of interest. He's going to get a bag
He's
this
a
year.
terrible shooter.
I don't like VanVleet, but
He's a low percentage
He's going to
shooter.
get a lot of money.
If you them, you developed him into. He's an all-star, right?
My first reaction to this is, again, like when I talk baseball and football trades, I feel like I have a great sense. With basketball, I don't feel as confident. But I will say that, to me, if I'm Toronto, if I'm not willing to trade Anunoby for Jarrett Allen, Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade are not changing my mind.
Well, they turned down 2 first-round picks at the deadline for Anunoby.
Right, like I'd rather have 2 first-round picks than that trio.
I would tend to agree.
Now,
if you could do that trade, that makes the Cavs so much better. I just don't think Toronto.
And by the way,
I just don't think Toronto would do it.
And by the way, if you do look at it, it makes I think of it in a trade machine. It makes the Cavs 6 games better.
Yeah, and
it makes them 5 games worse.
Plus, give them 14 second-round picks and those 3 guys. Let's go.
Yeah,
I would definitely make that trade.
I would make that trade so fast if it was available.
And I don't think it's insane.
It ain't crazy.
No, it's
like
not absurd.
if you
But
I
next
think
to
in the end,
absurd,
Toronto wouldn't do it.
yeah.
Like I said, Toronto
So you
was.
think G has the best of the 3 trades between these guys?
Just wait till you see. They move some
All right,
pieces.
well, who we
we're
going
gonna, we're
now?
gonna go with
All
Earl
right, so
first.
Earl's first, and then I'm last.
But Anthony, before we go, real quick on the G thing.
What do you mean Earl's first? G was first.
Well, no, before we go, I want to say one thing real quick
I'll
before
tell
you go.
The poll is meaningless. Earl put it up at the beginning. He put Bull on there. Bull didn't even do a trade. They all voted for everything before they even saw G's.
Hold on. One thing
Earl's
on G's
rigging
trade.
this.
One thing on G's trade. If you could get Anunoby, that is the perfect fit alongside Garland and Mitchell and Mobley. However, I don't think they have the assets to get him.
Who's a shooter?
If you're the
With
Cavs,
It'd be awesome.
you would, outside of the 3 best players, you would trade anything to get him.
Anything, yeah.
Anything. But I don't think the Cavs
and
have
the Dean Wade thing, like they signed Dean Wade to a deal. Theoretically, he is a shooter. Theoretically, Isaac Okoro can guard 3 positions. It makes a little bit of sense. But if they wanted something besides Dean Wade, I wouldn't have a problem putting with. Now, if they had a first-round pick, I think they take the deal. A first-round pick.
It's definitely more appealing at that point.
All right, let's go to Earl's trade. Earl, what do you got?
You ready?
I was born ready. I ain't scared of y'all.
Hey, Earl told me he was working on this yesterday. He had to add a 3rd team in. So let's see it. Earl, explain and tell me your thought process.
Is it Dean Wade for LeBron James?
Straight up.
Whenever you're ready, you can take it.
Let's go. What do we got? Oh, I can't read this.
I'll tell you. The Cleveland Cavaliers
What
get
is happening
Jalen
here?
Green and Kevin Porter Jr. from the Rockets. The Rockets get Kleba, JaVale McGee, Josh Green, and Theo Pinson from the Mavs. And the Mavericks get Jarrett Allen, Washington Jr., and Deshaun Nix from the Rockets.
Why on earth would the Rockets make this trade?
First of all, why?
Let Earl. It's your
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, ain't none of us a GM, so I was having some fun. But one of the things is the Cavaliers don't have nobody outside of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland that can go get a bucket. And they ain't got nobody that got some heart. So you get a couple guys in here that can go get a bucket, and they got some heart, and maybe we can turn this thing around since it ain't going to be no sweeping changes.
What are the Mavericks getting in this trade? I mean, what are the Rockets getting in this trade?
The Rockets, by the way, Kevin Porter Jr., we gave him to the Rockets.
The Rockets are giving away their 2 best players for JaVale McGee.
The Rockets are getting nothing, Earl.
And
They're
the
getting Maxi Kleebler.
that Kevin Porter Jr. literally was in Cleveland, but they said they had to get rid of him because I don't know, he threw a soup at somebody or went crazy.
That was JR.
Or he was swinging on. It was a physical.
No, he did multiple things.
Physical altercations with like coaches.
The Cavs screwed that up, Jason would know more about that, but
They did screw it up when they traded him.
He turned out to be a better player
I would like
than they
to
thought
have
he'd be.
him, but they just drafted what's his name, the other kid, Jalen Green.
Yeah, who you're also getting.
They just drafted him.
No, you're getting him in the trade too.
Earl.
No, the Cavs are getting Jalen Green and Kevin
What is
Porter.
Earl talking about?
Hey, we needed players that could go get a bucket, man. So I figured, hey.
Earl, you like the fans here.
The Rockets are getting up the second overall pick last year for Maxi Cleveland and JaVale McGee.
I need this on the short.
Oh my God.
All right,
Anthony's
let's
trade
get the crack
cannot
pipe
be
out,
more
'cause
unfair
it's
than
time
that
for my
one.
trade. Y'all ready for this?
Anthony, take it away.
This can't be
Take
crazy.
tag board full. I'm making the
Oh my
Nuggets and I'm
God.
making the Cavs better. I'm trading Mitchell and Allen for Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon with the Nuggets. Straight up, those two. I realize my only hole here is I don't have a shooting guard now for the Cavs, so I am missing it too. But I don't think Mitchell's going to be here after next year anyways. Get rid of him for what we can. Porter Jr. can play that 3 position very well. I think that covers a lot of our gap there. Now, I could also have done this with trading Okoro and Dean Wade for just Porter Jr., but I wanted a rebounder as well if we move Mobley to the 5th.
Okay, I don't know what's dumber. The fact that this trade makes no sense, or the fact that please repeat what you just said.
All of it?
No, that last thing you just said.
I think Aaron Gordon can rebound, and I want to put Mobley at the 5th.
You said at the end you would trade Okoro and Dean Wade
And Allen. Oh, sorry, all 3 of them. I missed out. Allen in there too. Yeah.
Oh,
Before
what?
Porter Jr. The Nuggets would never take it, but that was also a viable trade according to the trade machine. And I did this in
The
3.5
Nuggets
minutes.
are 2 wins
this morning.
away from going to the NBA
I
Finals.
completely forgot
And they're gonna
to
just
do
bust
my
up their
homework last
team.
night.
And they're gonna take Jarrett Allen and pair him with Jokic.
But just because he wants Kevin Porter or Aaron Gordon in the trade too, let's just give up Donovan Mitchell.
Like.
What is that?
Hey, by the way,
You got me crying, bro.
This is why.
I'd just like to say I went from 12% of the vote to now I got about 9, so I'm
Bro,
doing right over here.
God, that is
I don't
terrible.
understand. Here's what I'm gonna say, man.
I spent so much time making real trades for y'all.
Thank you.
I mean, Mikey worked hard on
whole
his
day.
trade.
Listen, and just so I wouldn't lose
Hey, that's the funniest
credibility.
thing you ever said.
By the way,
Just so I wouldn't lose credibility, I was gonna get hype and say I'm gonna do a trade with James Harden for the Cavs.
Yeah.
And I got on the trade machine and realized it was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
The numbers didn't match. The teams was trash. I said, no, Mikey, I'm not doing a James Harden deal. I'll give you a Jarrett Allen
numbers
deal, and
kinda
that's
match.
it.
G's trade at least is within a scope of reality.
Thought process.
Those trades that you two came up with are two of the stupidest things I've ever
The
seen.
Cavs get the number 1
Can you believe they
overall
trust
pick.
us to run this show?
The
Yeah.
number 1 Jalen Green and Porter.
and Porter.
Yo, you think the Spurs would take Okoro and Rubio for the number 1 pick?
Yes.
They'd have to think about it.
Think twice.
I don't know.
I'll throw in Dean
right.
Wade if they
Wow.
really need to.
We have all
those-
gotten stupider
Those
in
were
the
our
last
trades,
5 minutes.
guys.
Well,
That's funny.
vote on it. What
I
was
love
that?
the creativity.
No,
from
the
you
voting
guys.
the voting doesn't work. Earl
Okay.
messed up the voting, but I will tell you guys.
Wait, don't
what
put
the
anything on
results are.
Earl after what you just presented.
All right, so Earl got 25% of the vote. I got 12. G got 52%, and Bull got 12. Even though he didn't.
What? I didn't do anything.
I don't know what Earl's doing over here.
I'll tell you exactly what I did. I jumped in the chat from my own account and kind of threw some, hey, I'm on the east side. Either you vote for my trade or stand a chance
By the
of
way-
pulling up on you after the show.
Here's the funny thing. Earl's trade was so absurdly one-sided in the Cavs' favor that even our fan base, which is the biggest Homer fan base in America,
It's like, we can't do
said,
it.
I can't pick that one. It's too homerish.
I can't just get the number 1 overall pick from last
For nothing.
for free.
I would just like to say real quick, Evan419, Earl and Ant, how high are you? And we respond, hi, how are you?
Hey, well, we got one thing to
We got
end the
one
show
thing
with.
in there, yeah.
Well, no. This was
God.
UCSS history. I'm making a note. Worst take. These 2 trades are going on the worst take of the year. Now I know this is a little different,
that's
but
fair.
we're adding in. We're gonna end the show. We teased this in overtime yesterday,
Yeah.
and we showed a picture. We started overtime with Bull from high school, right?
Yeah.
And but
somewhere
before we
around
show the
there.
picture, you guys said, "Hey, we should roast Bull." So here's your chance.
Yeah,
Pull the
go.
picture up. We got 3 minutes. Anthony,
is
Earl,
me- this is me
scour
and
the
my-
chat. Let's roast
Me
ball.
at my grandmother's house. By the way, my mother said to me that I didn't have a mullet, that there was something on the wall behind me, and it looks like I had a mullet.
I like to believe you had a mullet.
But I said to my mother, I said, yeah, but it's honestly, I didn't remember ever having a mullet. But I said it's funnier if I have a mullet.
Bull.
So show that picture again, because I do look hilarious in that picture.
Hey, bro, listen, you look like
I was getting mad girls in that. No, I wasn't.
It looks
I was
like
getting no girls.
It looks like you had a '86 El Camino right there.
Yeah.
You look like
I had a '77 Caddy Coupe de Ville.
Oh, for real?
You look like you hit
When I was
137 with
more
6
like
home
when I
runs.
was like 20. No, my
Little League
first
Baseball.
car. My first
in the
car.
Dominican League, right?
My first car was a '76 Ford Monarch, and then I had a '77 Caddy Coupe de Ville. That car was, but I was like 20.
I'm gonna tell you what. I'll give you credit.
You pulled it off, Bo.
You could blend in.
Yeah.
Like you could be Mexican right there.
Yeah, I can be.
You could be Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
You could
Italian.
be Italian.
Yeah.
You could be Greek.
I could
Jewish?
be, that's true.
Jewish.
I'm Jewish. 'Cause
Like
I
you.
am.
Like you.
I could be anything.
Like
Yeah.
you can be in. Like any.
I could be.
Any nondescript.
You could even say like one of my parents was black. Not both.
No, like
Not
half.
both,
Like
but
you
I could be
mixed.
half or a quarter.
Quarter.
I could be a quarter.
Quarter bull is definitely quarter.
I was, by the way, when I did my genealogy, and I was like hoping I'd be at least a little black. And I was not. I was very disappointed in that. I was like, that would be cool
Hey,
to
man.
be percentage.
Anthony, anything in the chat yet worth
I've
And
seen
I
a
was
couple porn
disappointed.
stashes.
I was all-
I've seen
I was all
Mafia Boss
Eastern
in
European.
training. Where's
Mafia
my
Boss in
pizza?
Oh, I want to hear it. So I didn't hear the first couple. Go ahead.
Porn stash, a couple
Yep.
of those. We got Mafia Boss in training, Mario. Where's my pizza at?
Okay. Okay.
It kind of like if Mario
Well, I did
ate
work
I don't know
in
if I'm
Pizza
allowed to
Hut.
say this one on air, so I won't.
Yeah.
Say it.
As long as it doesn't have an F
They
word.
trying to get you.
Slayer?
They trying to get
What?
you out of here.
Poon Slayer? Is that? Can I say that? Steve,
You just
don't yell
did.
at
You
me.
did. I wish that was true. I mean, I wish I was, but I didn't get laid in high school. I lost my virginity. I actually did lose my virginity 2 weeks before I graduated high school. It was on my 18th birthday. On my 18th birthday, I lost my virginity.
Congratulations.
So her name was Rita. I couldn't pick her out of a lineup if she walked past me. By
That's
the way, here's a
crazy.
funny story about Rita, the girl I lost my virginity to. She's Puerto Rican. She's very beautiful. My dad was dating her mom.
Hold on. How long?
Just a couple months.
Okay, listen. If this
That's
was
how
a
we met.
if this was a long-term situation.
No. And it's not like we were brother and sister.
Hey, listen. That don't count. Listen, get rid of that. All that in
we're out of
stuff.
time.
We'll continue to roast ball in overtime. Viewer questions coming up next. We'll see y'all.
See ya.
Peace.
Later. All right, let's start overtime right away. 'cause
If you